kids. It's time to get some SML podcast all up in that.
This game contains scenes of graphic and disturbing nature, as well as inappropriate language. Fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah!
Does the game say fuck yeah?
No, but it seemed like it fit right there, so I put it in anyway.
What's up, everyone? This is the SML podcast. I am your host, Joe. We have another Partycast on deck today. Cole, you're here. How are you doing?
I feel like this might be the least partied of the Partycast. I feel like this might be a snooze cast because we're all old and tired.
It's the NapCast.
Yeah, the NapCast. That's a good way to do it.
Yeah, let's call it that, because holy crap.
Pernell and Chris, you guys are here as well.
So tired.
Yeah. I thought it would be a great idea to go work out at,
Why would you do such a horrible thing?
I have no choice. I've got a lot of weight to lose here. I'm struggling. And it's annoying because I don't want to go ever, but I force it. And that's why they hate me so much, because I usually show up at the very end of the shift. In fact, today was the biggest indicator of that ever, because they stopped taking appointments at 7:30. I showed up at 7:25. When I pulled up, the shades were down, the open sign was off, and I was like, I'm pretty sure they're open, but if they're closed, if the guy's ready to leave, I'll just turn back, no big deal. So I walk in, and I go, are you guys still open? He goes, yeah, we're still open. I'm like, are you sure? Because I could turn back. I saw the light was off. And I even tried to give him a little loophole. I was like, I know my clock can be fast sometimes. Maybe I overshot or something. Or maybe my clock's too slow. And he's like, no, we're open. Don't worry about it. And I was like, okay, sure. So I got to get my stuff out of the car. And I can hear from the street, damn it! I was like, clearly they're not open. He doesn't want to be open. He should have took my opening. But I guess he probably assumed I would go home and then complain to their boss the next day or something. But I would have been fine because I totally get it. Like, I showed up at literally the last possible minute to get an appointment. And I was only there that late because work ran over, and I also had to convince myself to go to the damn gym, as I have to do every time I go. So
you just know that, like, it was that guy's anniversary, and he's had to text his wife and be like, I can't come home early. Some fucker just showed up at 7:25.
Oh, well, guess what? I'll tell you flat out, one, I'm not married or dating, so the hell with that shit. And two, if you're planning your anniversary around your business being lucky enough to not have a staffer at this, have a customer at this time, when you know you close at 8, that's your own damn fault. You should have kept that as a surprise. Go, baby, look, flowers. What are you doing home so early? 30 minutes, girl. You know why? Nobody showed up for work. Like, no.
Well, she never said it was a good marriage.
Yeah. You're adding all kinds of qualifiers that I did not.
Turns out a week from now, they got divorced. What happened, man? Don't even fucking talk to me, man. Don't talk to me. It's all your fault. Why? Because you came for the service you're paying money for during our posted open hours. Well then, sorry you have a job. I don't know what to tell you.
To our dinner at a reservation that I made 6 months ago.
Wait a minute, taking her to
45.
We're taking her. Is he driving up to Colorado or something for this day? Damn, going up to the freaking Apache Indian tribe hut. Going up to the reservation to get for dinner. I caught that. Yeah.
They're at a place like.
But yeah, like for the record. Like, for the record, I did a lengthy stint in retail, and it did wonders for me, because as a result, I'm one of those people where it's like, I go in, I straighten the shelves myself, and I'm as nice as possible.
Me too. I fucking hate it, but every time I'm in a store and the shelf is messed up, I have to fix it.
Yeah, because it just seems like the thing to do, because the staff had it fixed up before some schmuck went and just like did it. And then all of a sudden it's like you see, and you're like, Some sad sack's gonna have to clean this shit at the end of the night. They don't want to do it. They want to go home, but they can't because people are lazy. Oh, I got a second here. Front facing, make sure to flush with the edge of the shelf, and do all that stuff. And then
Gears does not belong down with Madden. Who the fuck put this here?
But you know the thing that makes me really mad? When you do that, and then you kind of move over to like a little bit over on the shelf, look at something else, and you watch some asshole immediately fuck it up. Like, did you not just see me do that? I'm not on the clock, but I will mess you up. Don't you mess up. I'll put effort into that. What are you doing? Whoa, man, you work here or something? No, that's why I'm angry. If I worked there, I'd have to smile at your ass, but I don't, so fix that shit.
Exactly.
It's like people, I'll never understand. It's like there's like levels of just generosity and kindness and just minimal effort. People don't put forth any of those things. And none of it takes work. None of it takes, I could be having the shittiest day. Not go to a McDonald's or something and still look the guy in the eye and say, may I please have a large Coke and a large fry and maybe like one of those boxes of chicken nuggets or something, and not be a jackass about it. And even if they screw the order up ever so slightly, I'm like, hey, can you fix my order for me? No big deal. Not a big deal. But no. You get the people, get all the craziness out of them. I got to throw a big ass tantrum about it. Even though you go to Wawa and they screw up your order, you just text them and they send you a damn free gift card. I've gotten 3 of them. It's like, why would I get mad? If anything, if they screw up my order at Wawa now, I smile about it. I'm like, thank you. Free money.
That's how you do it.
What happened? They screwed up my order, and I'm happy about it. Like, what the... People just go nuts.
Send them an email and get those coupons.
Yeah, just, note to the big businesses, just bribe your customers straight up.
It's give them the
Amazon
good.
does that, man. If you message the Amazon customer chat for literally anything, they're like, "Hi, would you like $5 to make this go away?" Yes.
Yes, I would. And the funny thing is, the first time that happened to me, I didn't even want it. I only took it because I'd be a damn idiot to say no. Like, I just called. I was like, "Hey, I just wanted to check to see when my game was showing up because it was one of those, release day deliveries, and I don't see it yet. I just want to make sure you guys shipped it out and everything." It was a genuine question. And they said, "Oh, we profusely apologize for the delay in your order. As a recompense, here's a $25." Whoa, fella.
Mm-hmm.
Holy
You're
shit.
giving me money just for confirming my order got shipped? I should just do that for everything I buy, even if it's at my front door. Hey, man, did you ship my package yet? I got a bed and I haven't even gone to the door yet. I just want to make sure it's here somewhere. Oh, sir, here's your $25 gift card. You need to go to the... Oh, crap, what do you know? My box is here.
You need to go the other way now and be like, make it 50.
I'm still pissed. That's the worst of it. Can you picture that asshole? Can you seriously picture? Now I'm waking up.
Pretty sure I can.
Asshole? It's like, hey, we're really sorry, man. Look, dinner's on us. We did not mean to mix up your order. We know we didn't realize that you just think onions taste bad. You're not even allergic to them. You just think they taste bad. They're normally in the meal, and we just didn't realize because we're serving 75 damn people that you asked to not have them. So we're going to cover your meal. No, fuck that. That ain't enough. I need your boss out here. I need your boss's boss. I want 2 meals. See that girl over there? I'm not even dating her, but cover her meal. And you're like, what is wrong with this guy? Who shat in your cornflakes? We didn't do it. We only put onions in your food. I don't know what happened. What's going on, man? But
I'm just imagining that girl across the restaurant, like the waiter coming up to her with the food and being like, that guy over there threw a hissy fit, so your food is free. And she looks over like, hey,
maybe I should pay this forward. You put a hair in this food I didn't pay for. Where the hell is your manager? You gotta be kidding me, ma'am. You didn't even pay for that. Yeah, now I'm eating some nasty bastard's hair, and I want a manager.
And I want his food free.
And those are the 2 people that get married and then run that other business that we were talking about earlier. See?
Full circle.
It all comes back around.
They have like an ABC News special. So tell us how your business began. Well, it all began while we were being assholes to some people who deserve it. And then out of nowhere, luck struck, and we realized we could make money being assholes to other people. So there you go. Like, oh my God.
That's the all-American story right there.
It almost makes you think, have you ever wondered about this? So there's retail, and there's, just the general idea of the customer's always right and be as nice as possible, or within reason, So we have businesses out there where their bread and butter is to treat you like shit when you come in the door. Like, that's their gimmick. I'm almost surprised there's no store where their bona fide gimmick, not just them saying, we're really nice here, but their actual gimmick is, we are the sweetest people you've ever met. If you come in here, you're going to leave feeling like $1 million. Your dog just died. You're going to leave with a new dog. That's how you're going to feel.
What?
Like, it just, their whole gimmick is, we'll make you feel wonderful. Like, that's their, don't get me wrong, it'd be ambitious as hell to pull that. But I'm kind of surprised no one's done it. We have, like I said, we have businesses where their whole gimmick is to make you feel like shit, and their goal is to do it. Like, you come in there having the best day of your life, and they intend for you to leave.
That would be called a pet store, Pernell.
That is true, but you can't get a full meal at a pet store unless it's one of those pet stores, in which case, I don't know if I want to be going there. In fact, I feel like I need to make a phone call or two. But, but now you got me wondering, a pet shop with a restaurant with a pet shop in the back, but they're
That's
not
a Chinese food store.
Each other. That's not a Chinese store. They get theirs from the alleyway. No, I'm stuck. No. It's
that was awful. That was awful. I'm sorry.
It was awful. Honestly, I never even understood where that even came from. Because the record,
don't they literally cook those animals in those countries as food?
Yeah, but here's the thing. When I was a child, we didn't know that. But someone threw the rumor out there, so it spread. And people were like, what? And then in the end, you had the brazen kids like me who was like, look, the food's been good so far.
It's not Chinese, it's Cantonese.
Oh, that as in that? Wait, Cantonese? As in like where they actually cook the food that way? Or are you talking about something? Or are you talking about?
I'm just saying what she said. It's not Chinese, it's Cantonese.
That's what she said. I had to. It's a terrible joke, but you left it there. But
speaking of pets, I'm going to throw your story out the window and start my own. While you were telling your other spiel, Pickle apparently doesn't understand what boundaries are in relation to my shelves. Because I heard a bang and I turned around and there's a statue on the floor with Pickle sitting on the shelf staring at me. Just all cute.
Pickle's challenging you.
Yeah. And then just walking on the windowsill, like, right, oh yeah, are you gonna hang out next to me? Fuck you. And then do you remember the one Assassin's Creed Collector's Edition came with a Jack in the Box?
I didn't even know that existed.
I forget which one, but one of the Assassin's Creed Collector's Editions was like a Jack in the Box toy. Came with the key, you would turn the key and it would pop open, and there was like a Harlequin in there or a Joker. I think different stores had different puppets inside, but there's a key that goes in there, and the key is now missing, and Pickle ran away with it.
I've hidden the key somewhere in the house, and to find it, you'll have to answer 3 beautiful clues.
You're going to be playing Blue's Clues with Pickle later on.
But I'm going to look that up when this is over. I never even heard about that one. It had to be one of the. I'm gonna guess it was one of the later Assassin's Creeds. Then maybe.
God, I don't remember.
There's so many Assassin's Creed.
I think games. Brotherhood. If I'm looking at the right box on my shelf, I think it's Brotherhood. Aspros.
That's funny. The funny part I'm sitting there thinking about is like, I can't even think of. I couldn't even respond with, "Oh, that makes sense." it's just here's this random Jack in the Box that comes with this Assassin's Creed that has nothing to do with jesters or I don't know, or like maybe an assassin pops out of the box and stabs you. I don't freaking know, but
I don't know. Anyway, we're like 20 minutes in. Should we get to work here? We have a lot of games we got to talk about. Should we get started?
And a lot of sleep to get
to work.
Before we get into the reviews, Cole, did you start your game yet?
I have, yeah.
Okay, we are going to be reviewing the latest Radalaika title later on in the show, and Cole started the game when we started the show. And how are things going so far?
I'm stuck. I keep dying. I did get an achievement, but I don't know. The funny thing is it came up with at the beginning, and it was like, in order to interact with something, press the interact button, and then it doesn't tell you what the fuck the interact button is. And
you're like, gonna learn today.
I guess I'm smashing everything.
You're gonna learn.
Just button mash until you figure it out, right?
Yeah, it's kind of what I'm doing. So I'm like, well, eventually I'll figure out. I guess I've got a mark toward getting my. I don't know if there's an achievement for all the deaths.
When in doubt, A or B, right? I mean,
it was A. There was also another one for the inventory, and it didn't tell you what the button was either. I was like, okay. I'll find it eventually.
Press the inventory button. Yeah,
it's exactly what it said.
Button is it?
Yeah, it's
when
exactly
in doubt, why?
Yeah, seriously, was it Y?
Button? No.
Darn
it.
If that was
Y changes the signed in person. Why would they do that?
Title.
Why you're playing the game?
Wait, that's in the game?
Yeah, in the game. It come up and asked who was signed in.
Why?
That's different. That's great and weird.
Anyway, we'll revisit.
Everybody, the rest of the reviews are canceled. We're just gonna figure this out now.
Yeah. We're going to revisit that in a little bit. Hopefully you get some more progression. But first game that we're going to talk about tonight is called Mary Skelter 2, developed by Idea Factory and Compile Heart, published by Idea Factory International, released October 22nd on the Switch for $39.99. The nightmare continues in Mary Skelter 2, and this first-person dungeon crawler plays fairy tale-inspired characters called Blood Maidens, each with deeply customizable character-specific classes. Balance between power and madness and turn-based battles with a blood-fueled transformation system, and escape a living prison while indestructible nightmares give chase in real time. Pernell, tell us about Mary Skelter 2.
Well, Mary Skelter 2 is a game where the sequel is done in a way that I'm genuinely not too familiar with in the style of RPGs and sequels. In fact, I'm going to say this may be the first time I've come across a game that has done this, in which, without spoiling what the actual game is like, it's sort of like a retelling of the first game, but there are differences and changes in how scenarios play out and places that you go, to the point where it's a completely different game, but it leaves you like wondering like what's going on, especially if you've never played through the first one. Whereas I never beat the first one, I've only started it. And now this is making me wonder if I'm missing something really key in that game, or if this is just a genuine retelling, re-envisioning of some sort, just for the sake of doing it. So I don't want to go into, I'm not going to name any real particular names, because there's a few specifics that are different enough where it's like, I think that's one of the coolest things to learn about when you start the game up. So what I will say is that the game takes place, like Joe mentioned, in the jail system. The jail is pretty much a living prison that has encompassed an entire city. And all these people are trapped inside of it, being held prisoner by something called Marchin. They're just basically monsters made by the jail. They're assholes. And the way that there's a group called the Dawn trying to fight and get everyone out. And they are mainly powered by Blood Maidens, who are the battle unit for the Dawn. These are, like Joe mentioned also, fairy tale style and base characters who are powered by the blood of Marchin. It's an interesting concept. So what happens is when you get into a skirmish in the game, monsters will be lined up and you'll fight them in a turn-based system. If you hit monsters with their weaknesses, their blood will splatter onto your characters. And after a certain amount of blood lands on a character, they will go into something called Massacre Mode. Massacre Mode allows them to get juiced up and much more powerful, and their attacks do more damage, and they also gain access to Massacre skills, which allow them to do like sort of super attacks that are not flashy, just powerful moves. However, a downside to being a Blood Maiden is that you are also susceptible to something called corruption. And after enough time fighting Marchins and getting their blood on you and whatnot, you can become corrupt. And then when you go to the point where you reach Massacre Mode, instead of doing so, you go into something called Blood Skelter Mode. And Blood Skelter Mode is the same as Massacre, except you lose your freaking marbles and you try to kill your friends in combat. So you essentially turn on everyone and start attacking friend and foe. And it's a very bad scene when multiple Blood Maidens go into Blood Skelter simultaneously. However, there's a way around that. There is a character in your party, who I will not name, who is capable of removing that problem, removing the corruption from your blood, thereby allowing you to not go into that negative state. And they have moves that allow you to do that, whether it's to keep the purification levels high before you go into Massacre Mode, or doing something known as a life purge to completely remove it from you if you go into Skelter Mode. But unfortunately, that character also has problems in the form of a mental state you have to keep track of. And if you let him go crazy, he becomes a Ripper, and he just tries to kill everybody too. And if you go Ripper 3 times in one battle, the game is over immediately. And while that may sound like too much to handle and a bit ridiculous and absurd, honestly, I don't think it is. It actually makes the game that much more interesting, because combat, they give you a lot to work with to make your characters not so wussy. I mean, you have a job system where you're able to use blood that is acquired from beating monsters to allocate to different job classes and switch to them. These job classes will affect your base stats. They can give you access to a bunch of new skills that you can learn. But when you switch back and forth between them, you're allowed to keep those skills as well. So whereas in the first Mary Skelter, for those who have played it, unfortunately, one of the downsides to that game was that when you change jobs, if you didn't have the means to change back to that job upon bouncing between them, you'd have to pay the price to do it again. But in this game, they got rid of that, which is fantastic. So once you've paid the cost, reset?
I said that's good.
It's very good, yeah. Once you pay get a job, you have it for good. In addition to that, you also get something called a blood pack skill now, something that didn't exist in the previous game. So as you're running through dungeons, you can find these like item packs that are blood packs. And when you bring them back to the base, you can have them analyzed and then transfuse into your party members. You can pretty much transfuse skills into them. And these are cheap to free skills that don't cost you squat, which makes them very handy as far as like, kind of rounding out your party to do what you want them to do. In addition to that, it's just honestly a genuine good time to play. Dungeon exploration is still a blast. All the dungeons have their own respective gimmicks to them as you're wandering around and exploring them. And there are also jail emotions that you have to deal with, which are simpler than they sound. For example, they call one libido. The jail's libido. It has that. But all it is looking for specific spots in the dungeon and touching them. And once the libido gets maxed out, you achieve that. There's a sleep status, which means you run around the dungeon and don't really have any actual combat or any bad events occur. That's the kind of like a thing that will just happen over time. And the jail falls asleep, bonus there. And the last one is like this hunger meter. And oddly enough, hunger is satiated by hitting monsters at their weaknesses in battle. So if any of those things get maxed out by you doing them, you'll initiate something called a jail bonus, which is a roulette that has a bunch of different features on it. And when the roulette wheel stops, you get that bonus. So it could be like extra blood crystals, or heal your party, or raise your defenses, or a variety of things. But one other new thing, because there's a surprising decent amount of new things in this game, there's something called blood farming now. So as you're running around a dungeon, you'll occasionally come across spots that look a little different than others, like they're like pink squares. You can plant blood crystals on those squares. So A positive, B, basically they have to be positive ones. So it can't be like an A blood, it has to be A positive blood. But you plant the blood crystals on the ground, and then you splash your blood onto those crystals, because that's also what you do in Mary Skelter. And after you've done that and fought a series of battles, they will blossom, and then you can harvest all the flowers and they'll become items, whether it be armor, weapons, jail accessories, and just a variety of different things that you can put on or that you can acquire that way. And they usually come as being way better than you can get at the actual base from the stores, because they'll come with different attacks, abilities, equipable skills, which are also free when you equip them. They're freaking good. And just better stats, period. So the last thing I should talk about, because I can ramble about this game all day. So the nightmare system in this game is still back. And for those who aren't familiar with how that works, when you're running around in a dungeon, every once in a blue moon, there's like a super monster that's kind of running around. Think FOEs in Etrian Odyssey. And if you know what that is, they're super powered monsters that are visible on the map. Now,
Chris?
Yes.
Chris is like, I know what FOEs are.
Oh yeah.
So what happens in this game is what'll happen is there's like a white haze that insinuates that that one of them is present. Now, what ends up happening is if you happen to walk within the white haze, the monster will see you and give chase to you in the dungeon. At this time, the mini-map will disappear, so you will not be able to use the map to tell where you're going, and you have to outrun the monster and get out of his field of vision. If you are able to do that, he will go away and you will get a bonus. However, if you do not get away and you are cornered, you are forced to fight a monster that you cannot kill.
Oh, geez.
So, and they are no joke. The only way you can get out of there into one piece is you have to pretty much fight them until you can break some of their parts using like basically attacks that weaken them. And then when their parts are broken and they're kind of stunned, you run away and get out of dodge. That is the only way to deal with nightmares up until you get to the end of the dungeon, in which case you destroy the dungeon's core, which will then allow you to fight it without it regenerating. So that is generally the main goal of most of the dungeons, aside from just looking for your friends and stuff. So, but honestly, I think this game is fantastic. And furthermore, and this isn't speculation, I know for a fact, the first game is actually unlockable inside of this game too.
Really?
Yes, it's unlockable within the game, and all the play upgrades, from what I've been told, are actually in the unlockable version. So if you've never played Mary Skelter 1, you're basically getting both games in this.
That is cool.
The one you're getting in this is an improved version of the original one that people like me played, so there's no reason to go and buy the old one. With that said, if you have already been playing the first Mary Skelter, and you're like, should I finish it or not? Why not? But despite that, I think this game is something that you should look into because a quality dungeon crawler, I think it's a lot of fun. It may not be the most difficult game depending on how you build your party, but it will always be a damn good time. Like it's worth the money. Especially because, again, you're getting two games in one. And the second game, the first game people bought on its own, and the second game is better than that. So what can I say? It's a good value.
No, I guess you already answered the question then.
Yes, it is a purchasable. Buy this game if you're down with that JRPG swag. It is worth your money and your time. I love it.
Awesome. Sounds good. Next game to talk about is called BurgerTime Party, developed by Gmode Corporation, published by Marvelous and XSEED, released October 8th on the Switch for $19.99. Welcome to Peter Pepper's Grill, where the party never ends. Make massive burgers while avoiding edible enemies across 100 stages stuffed with platforming puzzles and arcade action. So alliterative there. Checking this one out is Chris. What do you think?
Hey, yeah. So this is the remake that I honestly didn't expect to ever show up. It is of course, the Data East classic arcade game BurgerTime, given a fresh coat of paint and a brand new set of structures, essentially. So, if you're not familiar with the original arcade game, what it basically was, you played Peter Pepper there, but he was much older looking and, had the chef's hat across the little tufts of orange hair and stuff. It seemed like, I think it was I feel like Wreck-It Ralph was based on that character plus Donkey Kong,
Oh, Peter Pepper.
I could see that.
Yeah, Peter Pepper. But anyways, yeah, so this time he's like a kid with this permanent looks like early 90s mascot attitude. It's got the Sonic eyes kind of thing going.
It's spunky.
With the pointy eyebrows and stuff, just over there looking hair not properly contained by that hat. That's a health code violation right there. But
mischievous little scamp.
I know. How dare he open a restaurant? But anyways, so the way that you originally played the game is famously inexplicable. you were to go up to different levels across the stage, like, just platforms and ladders, and you climb up to the top of the ladder, and you walk across gigantic ingredients in order to drop them down a level, and eventually at the bottom, once all the parts have been dropped all the way, then it makes a burger. And which is no way to make a burger, to be honest. I've tried it once. It was just not worth it in the end. Just stepping on your food and dropping it down like the stairs. It's not
stepping on a grate.
Yeah. But anyways, so funnily enough, that gameplay aspect is preserved perfectly in this current BurgerTime, and still no explanation is given. There's still no, this is just how it goes, and you're like, so this
burger creation.
I was gonna say, I mean, there's a lot of unlockables in this game, so I really hope one of those unlockables is just just a little one splash page explaining what the hell is going on in this game ever. Okay, so you start off in the solo burger. It's the only option available to you from the onset, but that's good because it's basically several tutorial stages. Each one introduces a new concept, actually not all of which, but most of which were from the original arcade game, which, of course, back then, the only way you got to know that is by looking at the little placard on the arcade cabinet, which would kind of briefly tell you what to do. So this actually, kind of goes through all the motions, everything from the first stage, which is one of my favorite tutorial stages, because all you do is you walk from the left side of the screen to the right side of the screen. There's no way that you can lose it, and then you win, and you get the best score. It's just walk across this top bun and see what happens.
Yeah, that's tough.
Exactly, yeah. Now, I will say that, and eventually, of course, you get into the other aspects of the game, which is that you have to, basically, the whole point of this game is score, just like a classic arcade game. But in this game, it actually gives you, ranks and medals at the end based on your score for every level. So if you want to get all the best content and, of course, get all the gold medals, all the nice little collectibles, then you have to really learn how the scoring system works in this game. So it's, and you find out it's not just about building the burgers in this bizarre and unwieldy way. Naturally, there are enemies in the game. The two main kinds, and they're introduced in the story, which is kind of not really a story. It's just, they try to explain it as well as they can without any words. But basically, I guess in the process of trying to develop the perfect burger, Peter Pepper throws away a hot dog and a pickle, and they both come to life and curse him from the trash can, and then the game starts. So basically these enemies pop up or are just present in the levels, just depending on how the whole thing is set up. Every level has a different setup, of course, and the hot dogs, they're basically just angry wieners that follow you around, and they're not very smart. They kind of just, they're kind of predictable, easy to manipulate. The pickles are much smarter, and they're able to, the hot dogs, for instance, can't turn, but the pickles can, different things like that, different behaviors that happen. The whole point of this is that you have 3 shots of pepper that you can just blow, kind of shake pepper onto them, and that causes them to be stunned for a second. Mm-hmm. The idea is to get them either under an ingredient that you're about to drop onto the lower level, and if it lands on them, then it takes them out of the game and gives you points. But you get even more points if they are on top of the ingredient as you drop it. That is to say, while they're stunned, you can walk past them, and if you can get them to drop on a piece of lettuce that's going down to the cheese, going down to the tomato, going down to the meat, the extra weight of those characters make them go down several levels instead of just one.
No, nice.
And then the points multiply and stack. And so it's all about this classic arcade strategy of not only playing the game, but playing it in just that way that you get the maximum amount of score. And they are they get real stingy real fast with those extra awards. Like, you get a bronze medal, of course, if you just clear the stage, but even to just get a silver medal, like, you really have to, like, time everything, like, really well. And, of course, you have 3 hits that you can take. They're basically counted out as lives, but, you know, it's just basically 3 hits, and then you fail the level. And yeah, like, it becomes really fun. Like, the fluidity of the gameplay is really good. It's nice and modern, so it doesn't feel clunky at all. And once you complete all the solo burger challenges, which are fun in their own way, then you get to the main burger challenges, and 2 things get introduced. One is, of course, the much larger levels that actually equal to the ones that you would see in the old game. You know, like, you have to make like 4 burgers, and they're like, you know, a pretty large amount of like platforms and ladders that just get bigger as you go. And it's about 20 different stages for each section. And the other part about it is that the main burger challenge is actually 1 to 4 players. You can have 4 Peter Peppers on screen doing all of this.
Nice.
And yeah, so that's really, really exciting. And then, of course, once you get far enough into that, the last unlockable, I believe, well, I don't know about the last, there's obviously more, but I think if you get far enough in it, then you get to unlock the Battle Burger Challenge, which I haven't unlocked because I don't have friends. Well, okay. I say that all the time. Yesterday, I did have 4 friends over, but we were playing Darkened Sky, the GameCube game adventure RPG that was made by the Skittles people.
Wow.
Yeah, I've been having friends over to play through that. That's a whole different thing, though.
Why?
I do have to ask this, though, because I never played that game. I just knew of its existence. Is it at least good or okay?
No, it is not good, and it is not okay.
Oh, my God.
But it's hilarious. If you ever get a copy, bring 3 people over and just swap out the controller, because no one person can get through a stage in this game. But anyway, back to burger time. Nice, good. So, yeah, like, basically back to burger time. The final thing that I noticed about it that I unlocked along with the main burger challenge is the challenge burger, which is actually a burger by burger remake of the actual arcade game.
Oh,
I love that you said burger by burger, not stage by stage. Excellent.
Yes. So you actually do get to play, and I played Burger Time like several times, so I did recognize it when I got into it. Now, the only thing that I really wish they would have done is just actually straight up include a port of the arcade game. But that is available separately on the Switch. I believe Johnny Turbo's Arcade released Burger Time by itself, so I'm not like saying that that the Switch is missing a Burger Time port, but I'm saying this game, it's the exact arcade game but redone, or reskinned to be the modern game. And of course the visuals, if you look at it, like, and once you get into it, not only the character design but the actual like animation and everything like that, it has a very Cuphead look to it. Everybody has that 1930s like over animated, Bob Clampett style animation thing to it, which is really good for this type of game, especially given how bizarre it is and how how everything goes. And without getting too much into all the different modes, there's like lots and lots of different things that come up that actually kind of make this surpass the original, in the sense that there's just so many more elements of strategy and timing that you have to take in, and lots of like little surprises that keep coming up. So I was pretty impressed by this port, really. Nice.
So overall, $20 on it. What do you think?
I mean, $20. It's I would say for sure if you have the friends to get through the main burger challenge together, because that looks like that's going to be the most fun. I had a perfectly good time playing it in solo mode, but like arcade games being translated to the modern stage, like usually those are much cheaper. So if you also have a huge nostalgia thing for Data East, which I do, then yes, I definitely recommend giving this a shot to give them some money. But no, it's as good as Burger Time gets and then some. So that is I would say that's worth a buy it.
Awesome. Sounds good.
Yeah.
You know what else sounds good? The fact that No Time for Games just dropped 505 biddies. George, take it away.
Dropping bits!
all over your fucking
emote
face.
Thanks to Oh, okay.
Wet pancakes.
So yeah, you guys probably don't know, but when people donate bits, we have a sound clip that we play that George made for us to celebrate the bits being dropped, and that's what that gap of silence that you guys heard was all about.
Okay, I feel better. 'Cause I'm like, I don't know what the hell's happening or why.
Cole knows.
I do know.
And speaking
It's
of Cole,
wet
how's
pancakes.
things going over there?
Pretty good. I figured out the buttons, and I'm getting through. I'm currently at 10 out of 33 achievements.
33?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
So you're telling me there's 33 stages in the game, or?
No, it's actually, unlike most Radalekas, it is actually narrative because it's a horror game.
Ooh.
I'm a little confused though, because I know based on an achievement what I should do, but it's not popping, and I'm a little frustrated right now. Like, get your act together, game. I know this is what I'm supposed to do.
Oh, well. Next game to talk about is called A Girl Who Chants Love at the Bound of This World, developed by Mages Inc., published by Spike Chunsoft, released October 1st on Switch, PS4, and Steam for $49.99. The first run physical edition on the Switch includes the bonus game 8-Bit Uno's Great Adventure, and the first run PS4 physical edition includes a bonus mini cloth poster. So if you're going physical, there's some bonus goodies for you. Your love awaits beyond the bounds of this world. Play as Takuya, an academy student who discovers the secret to time travel thanks to a mysterious gift from his deceased father. Use the reflector device to travel through multiple timelines and gather clues to unlock the truth resting beneath sword cape. Pernell, tell us about Uno.
Okay, so the premise, was an interesting little game. So it was a narrative that was apparently released a very, very long time ago. In fact, the reason why I requested to get the review copy is because on Rhythm and Pixels, we have become favorites. We have favorited the soundtrack for this game, of which none of us have ever played. Ever. It was by a guy named Ryu Uemimoto, or Uemimoto, or whatever. So anyway, when I learned that this game got a remake on the Switch, I kind of jumped on it. And it's interesting because for as old as it is, it's actually the father of a concept that has become very popular in this style of gameplay. But I'll get into that in a second. So, by offset, the main character, Takuya, is pretty much wandering around trying to solve this mystery that's been exposed to him in the form of trying to figure out what this device is that his father left to him, and also just the mastery of how it works. And the annoying thing about this concept is that you really can't say a great deal about it simply because the entire game is a narrative. So to spoil the actual details, I don't want to say. Yeah. But what I can do is say details regarding the game's how the game functions. So first and foremost, the prologue to this game takes a fair bit of time, and if you're like me, it might drain you a bit because during the prologue, you don't have the full game exposed to you. It's more like this is you exploring the world, getting used to all the characters. So you'll have dialogue sequences taking place where you're talking to characters. And a lot of times you'll be hitting the button multiple times to initiate multiple strings of dialogue with the same person, which is something I wish they didn't do. But I guess there's a reason behind that. Maybe someone might not want to have they want to have breaks in conversation so they can actually go on different narratives. But anyway, you'll be basically doing a lot of that. If you're the type of person that wants to click on every little thing, you'll be searching a bunch of different location or icons on a screen because it's an adventure point-and-click game where you'll be clicking a bunch of stuff just to read what the descriptions are. Like, wow, the sky sure is beautiful today. It's still beautiful today. Crap, why am I looking at the sky? And yes, he does occasionally make comments like, why am I looking at this? Who am I talking to?
I love when games do that.
You and me both. I actually laughed multiple times. I was like, what the heck is what the heck? I was like, who am I talking to? And the other guy's like, who are you talking to? He's like, I don't know. But after this prologue finally plays out, the actual game opens up. Now, don't get me wrong, it doesn't stop being a point-and-click adventure. That does not change. However, what does change is the options that are available to you. You see, the device that you get opens up something called the ADMS system. What does that stand for? I already forgot, so don't freaking ask me. But what it does do is it allows you to explore the world by way of multiple parallel timelines. So you start at an origin point, and at different moments within the story, you get opportunities to branch the story in multiple directions. You choose which way you want to go, and the story will branch off in that route, and then you will be pretty much experiencing it from that perspective. So, like, there's different routes named after various characters that are in the game. Now, the thing about it is not just that you can explore these parallel timelines. It's also the fact that you can hop back and forth between them. So, the device you have contains slots for 10 jewels, quote unquote. However, at the beginning of the game, you only have 4. Now, what these jewels allow you to do is go to the ADMS map, which is the parallel timeline map. It shows you all the paths available to you that you've taken already. And if you haven't taken them out, it's just this massive expanse. And it allows you to take one of the jewels and place it wherever you want on the timeline, as long as you're actually there. Like if you're in a position, you can go to the timeline and put the jewel at that exact spot. And what it does is it acts as sort of a save point for you there. So if you progress further into the story, you can warp back to that jewel and resume play from that spot in the story. You do not retain your memories when you go back to previous jewel nodes. I'll just call them nodes because that makes sense. You don't retain your memories, and it makes reasonable sense because if you retain your memories, just think of a narrative nightmare that would be. They could not possibly write that. And I thought about that. I was like, why would they do this? Like, oh, yeah, no one's putting in that work. It would break the game. So you don't retain your memories, yet you do retain all the stuff you found. So say, for example, there's a room that you really wish you could get into, but you have no idea where the key is. You might go down a parallel timeline, come across this key, then go back to the timeline where you wanted to actually use the key. You don't know how you got the key, but you know the key is in your possession, so now you can open the door. It's a weird mess, man. Nice. They pull it together nicely in that way. And the narrative, the writing in this game is actually really good. Like, I did not quite get what people loved about it so much. In fact, that originally the game was a freaking it was like a freaking like eroge they call them. I can't remember. I always call them freaking hentai games, but I think it's an eroge in that it wasn't like a hentai in the normal sense, but it did have like the emphasis was like getting with a bunch of girls and stuff like that. But with this release, they pretty much tailored and made it more like, hey, you can experience the game. It's more about the narrative itself. And they removed like the sex scenes or whatever that were in the game out of it. But with that said, it doesn't make the narrative any worse, nor should it, honestly. If it did, that would be a real concern for how people were ramping it up as far as how good it is. But no, the narrative is still solid. It's still well written. I
Dark
barely
Mika said you got my hopes up, Pernell.
I'm sorry, though. If it makes you feel better, there is a fan translation out there for the old game, which retains the original art too, which is a nice little touch. I mean, there's still some perviness. I mean, the main character is perverted as shit. I mean, within the first 5 minutes, it's like a whole panty shot conversation. It was like, what are you staring at? Yo, draws. Yeah. And I was like, well, I know where this is going. But and honestly, I'm one of those people where it's like, if they write the game where it's like the guy's just stupid pervy for no reason, that could be a turnoff for me. But I was able to deal with it in the cases. It's like, okay, I want to solve this mission. I want to figure out what's going on, why this person was here, but then they're not. You know, I want to understand this, so it allowed me to deal with some of that stuff. And for the record, I gotta say, if I had the ability to just bounce around through time, and I was in the middle of this massive mystery, trying to find my father and figure out why I have control of time, I'm not going to be all that concerned about getting into somebody's drawers. At least not normal draws. I need to get like some freaking celestial draws. Something.
Oh god.
Something to raise the stakes. It has to have raised stakes, man. You can't like, I mean, think about it. Like, this is like normal stuff. It's like getting the key to time and going, shit, I'll use this later. I'm late for work. No, screw that. You have time mastery now. There's time for whatever the hell you want to do. Not man. But yeah, this game
else it's time for?
Breakfast.
A verdict. $50 on this one. What do you think?
I think it's quality. Again, even if you're not sure how you feel about the premise of the game, I think it's worth trying if you're a fan of this style of game, because again, this was pretty much the father of, parallel multiple storyline paths within a game and how they're interpreted in games like, Virtue's Last Reward and things like that. It's worth trying out. I think it's a buy, minimal try.
Awesome.
And also, just for the last thing I wanted to mention too, it's not a short game. You're talking minimum 40 hours to play through it too. So.
Oh, damn. So
it is a hefty title. It's beefy, mostly voiced, but they put time into this.
Nice. Did you get a chance to dabble with 8-Bit Uno's Great Adventure at all?
I did, though. I didn't mess with it as much as I probably should have, but it's basically like an auto-scrolling 2D platformer where you're basically fighting animals, and you have like a sword, and you can pick up various power-ups that can like summon a dragon that you can ride, and you can also like throw like sword wave beams, and every once in a while you're progressing down the storyline, down the path, there are different routes you can take akin to the ADMS system in the normal game, and you can trigger those pathways to pretty much change where you're going and change the events on that route as you're trying to get to the end of the game and fight the final boss. It feels almost like a sort of Section Z sort of like game, which I'm not complaining. I love Section Z.
And it's cool for a free bonus just for picking up the physical Switch edition.
Yeah, I gotta say, flat out, you were like, both as good as if you get one. I'm like, no, there's no contest. Either you get a full game or a cloth poster. But it's kind of a done deal for me. Get that game. Get that free game. Awesome. I mean, if you don't have a Switch, that's one thing, but otherwise, what to do.
True. If you got a Switch, go Switch. Get that bonus game.
Exactly.
But next game to talk about is called Reventure, developed and published by Pixelatto Games, released October 8th on the Switch for $9.99. One hero, 100 different endings. Choose your path. Every decision leads to a new ending. Will you find the real one? Is there such a thing? Only one way to know. Chris, tell us about Reventure.
Oh, Reventure. I started this game sometime last week. I want to say it was a little later in the week, and got an ending within the first 30 seconds of the video game. And now I just booted it up to check. I am at 72 endings.
Nice.
Whoa.
Yeah, I played this thing like crazy. Yeah, this one took over for me. So, okay, Reventure is a well, at its core, it's like a it's a very basic action adventure, kind of almost Metroidvania-like adventure that basically you start a game and you start as the character Tim, and you are tasked with going on an adventure, and then you walk out of your house, and then you immediately go into a castle where the king is right there, and he's like, "Go save my daughter, she's been kidnapped." And so there you're just kind of given free reign to do whatever you want. Behind the king there's a shield, and a treasure chest with a shield. And oh yeah, I should mention, okay, so the gameplay itself is so simple that I actually played the majority of it using my NES controller for the Switch. Because the A button jumps, the B button does everything else. And then you just move. And then,
nice.
Yeah, exactly. So, super simple. And, as soon as you get like an item, let's say the shield, then it becomes apparent that while you can use your action button to block, of course, you can go outside and there's a little minion. It's a little cute little monster type thing. That's most of the monsters in the game are minions. You can like block its attack and stuff, but obviously, you've only got 3 hearts, so you can only take 3 hits. You got to move past, you got to go back out to the left past your house, and you'll notice that your jumps are a little more sluggish now. You were jumping real high whenever you started, but with the shield, you actually get slightly more weighed down. And then you go all the way to the left, climb up this mountain, kind of platform up the mountain, and then there's an old man there, of course, and he says, "It's dangerous to go alone." And then you pick up a sword. There's the Sword of Legend is behind him. And once you pick that up, you notice that now your jumps are even shorter. You're even more weighed down. So what I did, as soon as I got the sword, I walked out, and you can't leave the castle from the other side until you have a weapon. They're like, well, you can't go past this point without a weapon. And so I got the sword, got the drawbridge lowered, and there were 4 minions on the little island. And so I went and stabbed them all. And it has this great little it makes this little pop sound when they die, and they just go yeah, exactly. And they go flying. It's really, really satisfying. And then I jumped across, and without even really thinking about it, because the guard was also purple, I was then I used the sword, and it stabbed the guard, and he died. So then I got my first ending, which was that Tim, so eager to start his adventure, or it said Tim got his sword and immediately thrust it into the nearest peaceful guard. He was then arrested and summarily tried and executed for being an asshole. And so Tim died, and I got an ending, and it hung the ending up on a wall of endings, kind of like a magnets on a fridge kind of thing.
Jesus.
And then it started the game over, and it was Tim's brother Tinku is now going to start this adventure. So Tim got what he deserved, but his brother Tinku is going to set things right, and et cetera, et cetera. And you start the game over. You go outside the castle. The guard is still dead.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and you just do everything over again. And then so you go get the shield, you go get the sword, and you're like, okay, this time I'm not going to kill that guard because he's already dead. And so then you go down this other little path that you didn't notice before. There's a shovel. You can now use the shovel. And so you grab the shovel. You got 3 items. You can barely jump at all now. And so I'm walking past my house, and I trip over a stone in the front of the house and die. And then I get an ending.
Oh God.
So you can kind of see where this is going. Every time you do something that gets you killed or simply changes something, not only do you get a unique ending that is added to the collection and can be rewatched anytime, and also you can just get that ending as many times as you want, and it won't change the outcome. The next time that you play, the changes that you made to the world will be intact and will affect the world in different ways. And sometimes you can use this to your advantage to actually do more things. Eventually, I did something that caused the sword to start spawning inside my house, so I didn't have to go climb that mountain for it anymore. Eventually the castle got overrun with cats. I won't even tell you why, for spoilers. There's so many decisions that you can make in this game on your way to go and get the princess. You realize that it doesn't matter whether you ever rescue that princess or not. You are going to just do everything in this game to try and get as many endings as possible, because they're all hilarious, they're all great, and the game is extremely fun to play. And eventually I did rescue the princess and brought her back to the castle. And I'm not going to spoil it or anything, but that didn't stop me. It was as much an ending as when I tripped over a rock in front of my house.
This part
there were more endings to find.
Because anytime that if you rescue the princess, it's well, now another, the game always, when it restarts, it explains away the last ending somehow. And either it is through just explaining something that's kind of like a loophole, or like it just starts you with a different character. But you know, it's like there's, I want to see actually how many characters there are that I actually have, but I think after 70 endings I have like 50 different characters.
That's beautiful. That's a big family.
Yeah, exactly. And it ranges from everything from like you can get killed at a certain point, and it says a necromancer found you and stitched you back together, so now you're a zombie. So you get to play as a zombie.
Wow.
And this is, I'm conflicted as to whether to say this or not, because it's so funny when you first see it, but I'm just going to go ahead and do it. If you get flattened, it happens twice in 2 different endings. If you get completely flattened by something that's gigantic, like just a huge wall or something like that, you will then start as you'll survive it, but you'll start as a character called Disgusting Creature that has no bones. It's just like this puddle of human goo that just crawls around, and when he jumps, his boneless arms just kind of flap in the wind.
Oh, mercy.
And it's amazing. It's not even the funniest character, it's just my favorite.
Oh my Lord, either I need to pick this up on the Switch, or this needs to come to more platforms, because this sounds incredible.
It's only on Steam and Switch right now, but no, for real, like I had so much fun with this game, with this little game. And by the way, it's super retro. It's like the pixels, it's like the characters are made of like, you know, you can count the pixels by hand. In fact, I'm looking at my character right now. I think he's about 15 pixels.
Nice.
So yeah, the detail is not there, yet they are able to convey like everything in this game. Like there's never been a moment where I was like, I can't tell what this is. References to other games abound, including characters that you can turn into. Tons of fourth wall breaking, of course, and even one ending that involves giving the actual game that you're playing an 11 out of 10 rating. Oh, also, you can run across 5 different developers that inserted themselves into the game, and it is actually imperative that you kill them. And if you kill them, you get unlocked other palettes for the game, so you can make it look like Game Boy. There's one that looks like the ZX Spectrum, ZX Spectrum, and like, you know, different things like that you'll immediately switch back to the original. But yeah, no, there is a ton of content in this game that is really only about maybe 5 locations where you can get to the final dungeon within like just a few seconds of starting. And you know, what I love about this game is that when you can't pick up too many items. If you try, you'll get an ending, if you know what I mean. So it's all about like trying to figure out the best tools to get to do the thing that you want to do, or you want to try in as few items as possible. And in fact, you know, like that's what I love about this game, is that it's not about trying to collect everything and then doing everything in one playthrough. It's not about that at all. It's about finding new creative and spectacular ways to either die or annoy somebody or like actually do something good. And yeah, it just makes this game so huge and awesome. And the other good thing is I had the opportunity to actually show this to 2 different other people and have them play through it. What I love about this, okay, so so another game where you have to like deal with consequences in the meta game, that is to say outside of the game, and it, you know, saves everything no matter what, you know, like Undertale, right?
Yeah.
But what this does is way better, because it gives you like 10 different save slots that you can start on, because you always want to start this game from the beginning. If you're a new person, you don't want to already have endings on there. It's all about the you know, discovering it from beginning to end. And it also has a mode where you can just not save it. And so you can just do whatever and it won't even take up a slot. So I really appreciate that in it. But yeah, all in all, like you know, the music's nice and fun. It's you know, like I said, basically 8-bit. The graphics are extremely simplistic, but that serves the game rather than detracts from it. And the writing is just amazing. So
nice. So $10 on Reventure. What do you think?
$10. I'm just gonna go ahead and say this is probably the best game I've played all year.
Oh,
Are
wow.
you serious?
I would put this as my game of 2019.
Damn.
It is so good, and I really want people to experience this because I think I'm not even selling it as much as like I want to. I was absolutely floored by how great of an experience it is to actually play this game, and for $10, I think that is, it's a must buy.
Well, I can definitely say, as to back you up a little bit, like I watched the trailer for this, and I was like, I'm not sure how I'm feeling about it graphically, but the premise sounds really cool. So I was actually looking forward to hearing you talk about it because of it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel bad even just giving away as much as I gave away, but I really want people to know that there's just tons of surprises and tons of great little things. And at no point, I'm at 71 endings, right? And I'm like trying to do some specific stuff. And yet I know, because I actually watched my friend. We were supposed to play Blazing Chrome, right? But he came over and I was like, here, play a few minutes of this. I really want you to see what this is like. He sat there and got 43 endings. Like, right.
What?
And the other thing is that, it only takes like a few hours to get like dozens of endings. And the other thing is, like I said, I let 2 other people play this game and they went in completely different paths from mine. So everybody is going to play this game differently. Now, of course, everybody that's going to pick it up is going to try to do exactly what I did, but that's okay.
Yeah.
The point is to get all the endings eventually, but they thought of things that I didn't even think about. One of them went directly to the lava level, which I didn't find until like 10 endings later.
Jeez.
So, yeah, this is a great game, not only to play yourself, but to watch somebody play it. And the last thing, so that you're not totally in the dark, the game actually randomly puts hint items all around the map. If you haven't gotten an ending yet, pick up a hint, and it will actually tell you the number of the ending that you're going for, and it will give you the title of the ending as a clue. And then eventually you're able to get an item that will help point you in the direction of it, but that's not until later in the game.
That's cool.
Yeah, this is not only a buy it, I'm going to call it a must buy it. That's a special category I just came up with.
Damn.
It's like 1 or 2 games a year can get it.
Yeah, I'm not going to give that to every game, but this one wowed me. So, yeah, I love it.
Damn, that is I will be picking this up after the recording. You sold me. I'll buy it tonight.
And in my case, I have to wait till November 1st.
Fuck you, Pernell.
I have no choice. I got to hold my guns here. This is surprisingly hard to do.
It's only $10, man. It's only $10. You could.
Oh no, it's not the money. It's the principle of not buying a game for October.
Oh man, one of those things. All right, I get you.
But when November 1st hits, this guy's on the skillet.
Nice. Speaking of being on the skillet, Cole, how's things going?
I'm doing good. I got a couple of achievements that aren't popping, and I'm still pissed about it. I think what's happening is that there seems to be like a glitch that whenever I pause, it's making me choose who I am, choose my profile, and that might be affecting some of my achievements.
Maybe.
Because they have clearly popped for other people, but they're not popping for me.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Are you having fun?
Yeah, it's weird, but it's not as scary as I was expecting. Like, I was hoping for more, and there's not been any. I'm just like, well, that's creepy.
She wanted more, but she got more,
You know.
Speaking of wanting but only getting let's see if this next one holds up. I have high expectations for this one. I'm really interested in this one. I hope it turns out good. It's called BDSM, Big Drunk Satanic Massacre. Developed and published by Big Way Games. It released October 10th on the Switch and PS4 for $29.99, on Steam for $19.99. I was told that it is in the works for Xbox as well, but not any word on when that's actually happening. But BDSM is the first satirical action RPG where you get to play as Lou, Satan's son, get some booze, kill the traitors, save hell, and rescue the hottest demoness from the clutches of those nasty people and mega corporations. Pernell, tell us about Big Drunk Satanic Massacre.
Well, I have a weird relationship with this game because if I hadn't read the description of the game, I wouldn't feel so off about it. If I just played it flat out, and I'm like, oh, all right. But the reason why I'm saying that is because I have I mean, I guess it has action RPG elements, but they're minor. Like, I wouldn't even look at this and call it an action RPG. I would think of it more like trying to think. I guess just like a solid, like just a running gun, like a twin stick shooter. It is a twin stick shooter, which isn't bad because the premise of this game is actually pretty funny. You play as Satan's son Lou, whose father, Satan, was pretty much removed from power by humans because in an absurd plot line, humans have come to hell and turned it into a vacation spot. So
I'm down for this.
It is a very odd premise that I genuinely like. So the very beginning of the game, they air a bunch of commercials, like fake commercials about like this company called Big Whack, which is like a burger chain down there, which is like it shows a bunch of humans like being gluttons and just overstuffing themselves to the point of bursting. And they're like, how do we keep our food so cheap without telling you specifically? We cook our customers and then feed them back to you. It's great like that. So basically the way that after that scenario occurs, you meet Lou, and after getting drunk on milk for the last time, because apparently they get drunk on milk in hell, he gets kicked out of his favorite bar and is told to do something with his life instead of wasting away at the bar doing nothing. So he decides to liberate hell from the Earthlings. So begins the game. This game plays as a twin stick shooter where you go from level to level. It's not like open world or nothing. You go by stage, and you pretty much massacre enemies as you go from room to room. Now, as you are moving throughout the stages, every once in a while you might come across a new gun. Starting out with the game, you only have a revolver, which has a pew-pew-pew firing method, and then has an alternate fire method where you just empty your entire clip and then reload it.
Oh, you don't have a sound effect for that one? Click, click, click,
I didn't want to do that because that's more like a machine gun. You are literally firing each shot, but you're just doing it quick. It's like pop, pew, 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 pew. So you're pretty much like unloading the clip and then reloading the gun, which honestly, more often than not, that's what I did because you have unlimited bullets for that gun. So there's no reason not to just empty the clip and reload it. But as you're playing through the stages, every once in a while you'll come across a new gun, which becomes a permanent fixture into your arsenal. So once you get that weapon, you will then be able to get new ammo for it as you stumble across ammo items in the stages, and you'll just keep using it. And like the revolver, each of those guns also has an alternate method of firing as opposed to just the standard. Now, enemies come in a variety of shapes and sizes. Honestly, I kind of like the enemy variety of this game because they all kind of behave differently. So you'll have the generic grunts, which just kind of run at you. You come across dudes who pretty much can stun you. And then you come across even stranger things like, without going into too many enemies who just fart. And their farts kill you by way of farting big clouds of stink. Okay. Anyway, some stank ass. They basically they gorge themselves on burgers and started farting them up. But as a result, you'll be finding yourself, kind of running and strafing and trying to kill guys as best as possible while avoiding taking blows. As you kill enemies, you will accrue rage, I guess, in the form of like red orbs. And when you max that gauge out, you can press a button to go into rage mode, which has you go into like a overpowered mode where you start barfing a laser for an extended period of time. And once that's done, you go back to normal and start accruing rage again. Now, the RPG-esque elements in this game. So there is a light upgrade system that exists in the game, for one, in the form of skill points that can be attributed or allocated towards either your ammo capacity, your health capacity, your rage boost capacity, or, dang, I'm already forgetting what the last damn element was, and it's kicking my butt. But anyway, bottom line is there's 4 things you can level up. And the way you level those things up is by either fulfilling occasional quests that may pop up on the map here and there. Like, for example, you might have to free a bunch of guys from cages or get revenge for someone on behalf of their lost girlfriend or something. And if you fulfill the quest, they'll give you a skill point. The other way to get skill points is every once in a while you'll come across a succubus. You bang the succubus and you get a skill point. Now,
Okay.
The only thing about pretty much, and honestly, the only thing about that annoys me, because honestly, I'm like, hey, I like succubi. I don't mind getting a little something, something. The problem about it is that there's a stupid mini game associated with it. What? I gotta flat out say, yes, I get it. Sex is awesome, but I've never come across a sex mini game that was fun. If anybody has one, by all means, share it with the rest of the class, because I don't know where it is. But that's no different in this game. It's not a horrible game in the sense that it's complicated or time-consuming. It's just meh. I just want the skill point. Just tell me if these done and give me my skill point. But no, waste time. So once you get those
skill point, man,
by flicking the thumbstick up and down was not even with dick, it's with left thumbstick. It's not even it's thumbstick. Thank you. I'm glad you caught that.
For a lot of guys, that's about the same size.
No, first of all, if there's any man anywhere, and we're talking infants who have dicks that size, they need a doctor, a real doctor, probably a shaman. I don't freaking know, but they've got a problem. Second of all, the mini game is basically you have to flick the thumbstick back and forth, either slowly or quickly, based on how the woman is moaning, and every once in a while you have to press the A button, I guess, to just do a super thrust or something. You gotta go rubber, and then when you're done, you'll get a bonus, and you'll there's like a sort of like pinup of the succubus that just kind of shows up in the center of the screen, and you're kind of like, does that show up in a gallery later, or is it just But that's pretty much that mini game. And there's one other mini game actually in the game too, which exists at the shop. So there's a guy whose name is Nike, basically Kane spelled backwards. It's a bunny or something. And when you come across him, he runs a shop, which allows you to buy upgrades for your guns, such as like increased firepower or ricocheting bullets, stuff like that. Or also various bonuses to your character, such as drinking milk, which is think of it as like a Diablo potion, where you drink it, you get your health back, you can replenish it as you're running around the map. By drinking this potion, you can cure yourself of being stunned when enemies stun you. Or there's magic like talismans you can find on the ground, like pickups, that lets you cast spells, but you can buy an upgrade that lets you use each one twice instead of only once. Stuff like that you can spend your money on. But there's also a mini game he has, which to this day I barely understand. But what it is you're on like a bunch of tiles. Like think of it as like a 3x4 grid, and each tile within that grid has either an item on it, an enemy, or you. And your goal is to move one step at a time across the grid and pick up items while not being killed by the enemies. I just kind of fumbled through that mini game a couple times, got some money, and bounced. Because essentially, you want to walk up to guys from behind and whack them and not have them whack you. Or sometimes you can find a gun on the grid, you can shoot 2 squares over and kill guys. But it was a good way to just earn extra cash, but nothing to really write home about. So the main game as a whole, though, I will say, it's interesting in the sense of saying, when I say this game is a spectacular or special, honestly, I would not say that. But it does what it does well. It is a twin-stick shooter that I did enjoy playing. The humor in the game, I honestly laughed at stuff. It's dark humor, dark, goofy humor mainly, and it's funny. I laugh this shit. I like the idea of getting drunk on milk and farting to dash. Call me old-fashioned, but farting shit'll allow a man to dash.
Hey, we grew up on Booger Man.
Damn right. I'd grow up with him again. I wouldn't trade that in for nothing. But I was enjoying the humor in the game. I thought it was a good time. The only things I didn't like about it per se, as far as visuals go, is that if you're playing on handheld, I can't really speak for TV because I really need to start doing my reviews on TV and handheld. But I'm so into the handheld of the Switch. But anyway, in the handheld mode, everything's kind of small. There's a lot of times where the enemies, while you can tell who you're fighting per se. You'll know this is the guy that will slam into you and stun you, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of detail that I feel is lost because of how small everything is. So it could be more vibrant if it was more magnified, but that's just kind of a aesthetics complaint. In addition to that, in the aesthetics department, for the positives, and it's both a positive and a negative. The game takes place in hell, which means it uses a color scheme that would be indicative of a hellish environment. Lots of dark reds and blacks and fire and brimstone-esque colors. Unfortunately, that color washes over everything. And even though, like, for example, you'll be in a slaughterhouse and everything, you can clearly tell there's like a cutting table and a conveyor belt running and blah, blah, blah. All you're kind of seeing is kind of a dark haze over everything. So the detail feels lost a bit. Still enjoyable, but I feel like it could look better if there was like maybe like a setting to like kind of increase the bloom or something. I don't know.
Nah, I don't know.
But yeah, but as far as the gameplay goes, I honestly enjoyed playing it. I enjoyed getting my running gun on, and I enjoyed coming across each and every new bizarre enemy type that existed in this game, because I do like that. I used to joke about wanting a game that was like Raises Hell again, which I'm not sure if you remember that game?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted more games like that where they take hell and give it like weird aesthetics, like either cutesy stuff or, in this case, humans coming and raiding it. So now you're fighting like humans tainted by hell and weird goof or stuff like that. So this game pulls that off well, I think. And that speaks volumes for someone like me.
Nice. Well, for $30 on console, $20 on Steam, what do you think of this game?
I think it's a definite try, but if you're okay with all the humor elements that I was talking about earlier, then I would go as far as to even say go ahead and buy it, because it's a short run, but it's a fun run, and I think you'll get a fair bit of humor out of it as you're playing through and experiencing it.
Cool. Sounds good.
I try. One day you're going to go review episode. It's like, okay, it sounds terrible. I'm like, why?
That was awful, Pernell. Go fuck yourself.
No!
But next game to talk about is called Family Tree, developed by Infinite State Games, published by East Asia Soft, released October 10th on the Switch for $7.99. Don't stay up too late, kid, said Mr. Fruits to his babies one evening as he went to bed, but they were so busy glued to their screens they completely ignored him. All of a sudden, the evil skull Pedro appeared, and with a mischievous cackle, he sucked all of the Fruit's family kids into a portal, turned them into actual fruit, and then scattered them through all the trees in the forest. Can you get them all back? Chris, tell us about Family Tree.
Oh man, I don't recall the actual, like, they were so glued to their screen thing, like being actually in there. But it might have been. Okay, so yeah, so Family Tree is a game about your character, who I guess he kind of looks like a apple to which a gumball has been affixed. Yeah, so the actual like gameplay of it is a thing where you basically go through each stage and try to collect all the pieces of fruit and all of the coins that are available, and there's a timer that as it goes down, you lose bonus points, and the idea is to get all of the fruit and coins and get to the end, and then you get your score multipliers and things like that, and then you win the day. The way it controls, of course, is the unique part. So with the stick, you basically point, and this is something we've seen in like lots of mini games and stuff, but you basically point a line that becomes a trajectory, and then with the A button that actually launches the character in that direction. And so you're using bounce and rebounce and all kinds of stuff to like get up platforms and defeat enemies and shoot yourself into cannons like Donkey Kong Country style, either automatic shooting ones or ones that are just turning. And you just go from stage to stage and try not to run out of time, otherwise Pedro the Skull kind of floats around menacingly, and try not to leave any fruit behind, because those are literally your children, apparently. So, but yeah, the whole thing is like basically painted in this very like cutesy way. It's very, very, very colorful. Like this whole thing, just like,
yeah, it's a pretty looking game.
Yeah,
I like the art style.
the colors really pop. And the cool thing is that like the levels are divided for some reason into seasons. So you play through spring and then summer and fall and winter. So you have all these like different things to look at. Really, I mean, it does seem like a lot of care was kind of taken into this game. I especially like the soundtrack. It's kind of an electro funk soundtrack, which I wasn't actually expecting. I was thinking something more like brassy, but it's actually a lot of toe tappers in this one. So yeah, it's just basically making that vertical climb and stuff. And the thing about it, like, sorry, I'm actually looking at the game right now and I'm trying to go through the menu. So I have one.
That's called
bizarre...
addiction, Chris. We have to talk about that.
It does a really good job of hooking you in. No, I wanted to talk about the menu because the menu is doing that cutesy thing where you actually have to use gameplay to get around the menu. So you actually have to launch your fruit at like these different planks to like get options and stuff like that. But I just wanted to say they went a little overboard with it because, like, if you want to turn the volume up, you have to launch your fruit into it several times, like each time turning the volume down a little bit and then going in the other direction. And here's the other weird part about it. Okay, so I said this is all about bounce and like ricocheting, right?
Yeah.
If you ricochet off the sound effects volume slider, which again you have to hit it several times to get the actual like volume that you want, the invert control switch is right next to it, which completely makes your controls opposite.
Oh man.
It's just the weirdest. I love it as a choice stylistically, but man, it's annoying to actually implement. So just saying, I love the idea. It's not my favorite though. But I do like that if you're in the option menu or even the main screen and you use the right stick, you can actually scroll up to look at the credits. Like, and you just kind of boomerang it. But anyways, like all that aside, it's different things. Like there's also a store where after you get enough progress and especially enough like perfect levels where you've done everything perfectly, you can unlock different things that kind of power up the character and make things a little bit easier. It also has a lot of like different cool little like challenge modes where you basically like try to, like in the regular game, do things like complete the level in one shot. There's actually, and they're kind of like achievements, and one of them is for muting the music, and it's called Philistine.
Oh God.
But anyways, yeah. Once you like, I don't remember actually if it unlocks immediately, but there is eventually a endless mode that you can play through, and that actually is a 1 to 4 characters on the screen, just endlessly going up and trying to collect as much fruit as possible, while the level fills up with water.
Oh.
Yeah, so you really have to like, try to get as far as you can, but actually make some progress. Don't just hang around,
Yeah, I gotta keep moving.
Yeah. So yeah, like I like this one. I like the physics-based puzzle solving. I like the fact that the shoulder buttons actually cause you to like just bump yourself over to the left or right, so you can kind of tilt it when you're when you didn't get your shot perfectly. Looks great in portable mode and on the TV. Just all around, like lots of care taken into this game that I wasn't expecting from an $8 game. So. Oh, and so there's another thing that's weird about the menus, right? So if you pause it, there's an arrow and an X. You choose one of them. If you choose the X, that means you want to exit. And then it says retire, and then there's a check mark and an X. Then you have to push the check mark. If you go to the X again, it just takes you back again. I just idly like sat there and pushed X like 5 times instead of exiting a level before.
I'm proud of you, Chris. But
I know.
Overall, $8 on Family Tree. What do you think?
$8. I think that if you like the bouncing physics-based like puzzle style, this is the best way that I've seen it implemented. So I would say this is definitely one to go with. It's got lots and lots of levels, which I really enjoy, and lots of good unique challenges. There's like interesting enemies. There's like every level feels a little bit different, and the learning curve, like it seems complicated at first, but it's like you learn it so fast that it just it really does well. So I think they did a great job with this one. So yeah, and I mean under $10 for any quality game is an automatic buy it for me. So that is, nice. I'm gonna say buy it on this one.
Awesome, sounds good.
Yeah.
Were you gonna do Silk tonight?
Yeah, I can do Silk tonight.
Cool. Then the next game to talk about is called Silk, developed by iHobo Games, published by Huey Games. Just want to take a second to say that iHobo Games is an incredible studio name. This one released October 11th on the Switch and Steam for $12.99. Enter the biggest handcrafted open world of all time, 50 times larger than the Elder Scrolls II Daggerfall. Explore 3 million square miles of uncharted terrain from the Roman Damascus to Three Kingdoms China in an exploration RPG that transports you onto the ancient Silk Road of 200 AD as an intrepid traveler or a ruthless conqueror. Chris, tell us about Silk.
Okay, first, Chris Bateman, that's who I was looking for. This is a game that was largely made by a guy called Chris Bateman, who is kind of known for his writing in games, and what I wanted to shout out specifically is that he wrote Discworld Noir and worked on the second Discworld game, and those are two of like I've never played Noir because it's European only, but I really love Discworld 2. It's one of my favorite point-and-click adventure games, so I was already interested in this based on that. So nice. Yeah. Anyways, so yeah, Silk is basically a game that is like, it's an exploration simulation kind of, where you go on the trail from the Roman Empire in 200 AD to China in order to create what is historically known as the Silk Road. That is, of course, a trading route where silk was imported and exported, and is a major thing, and a lot of other things. Yeah, it just basically kind of binded the whole hemisphere together, or created terrible wars, or who even knows. My world history knowledge is really bad. It might be a terrible thing. Who knows? But for your purposes, it is the ultimate adventure of starting west and moving east, essentially. And it's in a few, like, there's a few different things that happen in the game as a goal. Is like basically you travel from town to town, from city to city in countries, and manage resources. Of course, you're working a caravan, so you have to make sure that you have things like enough soldiers, enough horses, enough food, and then things to trade. You can find these things along the road between towns, or of course you can trade them. So if you have something that's valuable to a place, you can trade it for something that may not be as valuable in that area, but then is way more valuable in another area. And so it's, a trading and resource type thing. The part, of course, that kind of binds it all together is the fact that the movement in the game, rather than appearing just on a, on a map where you, select a dot and then go to the dot and do your thing, you actually physically do travel from town to town in a first-person game. Now it's tile-based first-person, which means that, when you push forward, you move a block up. And
so like the thing about Etrian games, tile-based?
A little bit, yeah, like Etrian. They pointed at Eye of the Beholder, which is, I guess, a well-known D&D game. But yeah, like you basically go forward, and but unlike those games, and this is actually really interesting to me on this one, you can move diagonally. You never see that in those kind of games. Yeah, and so, and like the whole of the world is basically, they call it a drawn map. So all the mountains and trees and forests and all this other stuff are like actually drawn pictures, but they look like they're basically like drawn in color, like drawn in pencil and then just kind of filled in with paint. It's an interesting look. It's at both times like kind of refreshing on one hand and then kind of archaic on the other. But they pointed at Daggerfall as an inspiration, so I'd say that it's just like that, Yeah. Like what Daggerfall is to pixels, this one is to just rough lines. ends up looking cool. Like, to me, I think it actually looks really neat. I would have liked some background music, but there is none. So this is a game that you're going to be playing along with your Spotify soundtrack or listening to this podcast.
Yes, obviously.
Yes, obviously, because you are going to be spending lots and lots of time with zero music in this game. Yeah, it has title music, and then like once I started my game, there's just no music. Anyways, so without getting into too much of like the finer details of how the game controls, because there is actually an entire tutorial that you can access from the front menu. The whole point of it is to, when you start your game, you choose one of 4 paths that you're going to do. And it tells you right up front what the difficulty is going to be for those. If you're starting the game for the first time, they say definitely choose Traveler because it's by far the easiest. All you're doing is exploring, trying to basically unlock the route. That is to say, uncover it on your map, like Civilization style. It's all, the entire map is darkened. You only get it highlighted around the spot where you're moving. And, try to find this trade route. And along the way, you will learn things like how to do trade and how to do combat and how to do the different things. And then the other 3 paths are, to actually conquer all the countries between there and where you're going. There's another one that is all about setting up the best trade route. And then there's one that's, I guess it's like getting everyone to work together kind of thing. I didn't really get it. And, I didn't start a game there because I was playing too much as the Traveler. And then once you choose your character, once you choose your path, you choose your character, and then you choose your advisors. You can have up to 7, and they purport that there's over 1,000 to choose from in the game.
Damn.
Yeah, you only get a handful at the beginning, but what you're really choosing when you're choosing an advisor is they have different stats. And funny enough, the only game I can point to that's a lot like this is Defenders of the Crown on the NES. So I won't because nobody's played that.
Thank you for saying that. I'm like, yeah, Defenders.
Exactly. I beat the game as a kid, but who cares? So your main character might be, let's say, very good at trading, and then they might be good at animals, handling, animal-based problems, and they might be okay at battle. Well, then to compensate for that character, you're going to want to pick at least one advisor who's good at battle. But you don't want to pick like 2 advisors that are good at battle because it doesn't help. You want to spread out as many skills as possible. And so as you're going through the game, if you get into a town, it just goes into this like rotating like gallery of things that you can do. So you can like look at buying some wool, and then all of your advisors, when you choose them, they'll tell you like their different opinions about them. And some of them might be like, "Oh, we could trade some silver for some wool. I don't know anything about trading, but I could practice it if you want." And then one person might be confidently like, "Actually, the wool is going to be really valuable over here, so we should definitely get some, and we should trade this for it instead of silver because the silver's precious."
That sounds like the neckbeard. It's like, well, actually,
yeah. Well, actually,
trade is much better in the southern regions of the country.
Exactly. Well,
Best
the neckbeard
ever.
that is good. Which is funny because I have a neckbeard right now, practically, because I haven't shaved in a while. But no, like it's a thing where It's funny too because like the neckbeard would just say Bitcoin every time. What we should really do is pick up some cryptocurrency. Anyways, so but you want to pick, of course, the advice of the person who's best at the job, and you actually then put the button, or you put the cursor on them. You choose their portrait and then hold down the button. So I like that you have to hold down the button for a second so that you don't accidentally make a really bad choice, by button mashing. And once you do that, then you're either successful or not successful, but it takes away some resources, maybe even like if something fails or just doesn't work out right, it lowers the what do you call it, the happiness of the caravan kind of thing. You have to keep them happy so they don't abandon you or kill you. I actually don't know what happens, but you want to make good trades and stuff like that, and you want to have somebody on board that knows how to stop at a shrine and pray to a god correctly, because that will boost the morale of the caravan by a long shot. Sometimes will even impart bonuses to your characters, and every time your character does something successfully, it actually raises their ability to do that thing, like gaining experience. And you can actually kind of like, maybe even take the odd raw deal just to improve that character's ability to trade, or something like that. It's a risk reward kind of thing.
Yeah.
And the same thing, when you're walking through the wilderness and stuff, like battles, everything shows up as just like these silhouettes that just kind of move. So if it's a silhouette of like a bunch of soldiers, then that means it's a battle. Or if it's like a wolf, then it's a battle. And then you choose your battle guy, and he'll, or you could choose a not battle person to handle it. Exactly. And, handling those, of course, raises your battle but lowers your morale because your caravan doesn't like getting attacked. and and so it's but then sometimes if you successfully win a battle, especially if you have a very good battle tactician on your side, you can then raid their camp and get a whole bunch of resources that way. It's awesome.
Ooh.
Yeah. And so it's one of those things where it's like lots of cool, exciting stuff is happening. It's just kind of like not all shown on the screen. It's a little bit, it's like menu based, but with this first person moving around type of thing. And, funny enough, it actually feels like a really old computer game in that sense, even though everything is like new and running really smoothly. Well, I say smoothly, this game compares itself to Daggerfall. Indeed, my game did crash where I had to close it completely. But only the one time. Yeah,
that's not
just
bad,
one.
Man.
Yeah, no, I just thought it was funny that they name-checked Daggerfall, one of the crashiest games in the world.
And the game crashed.
Yeah.
Man.
But yeah, like it's really, really cool. And the other cool thing about it is that every time you discover a new town, a pleasant British voiceover comes in and actually explains about that town and like what its like history is, and like how it's fitting into the context of 200 AD. Because of course you have hostile places that are hostile to you for being Roman. You have places that aren't. And it's really nice that the game like actually kind of takes care of you for that. Also, one thing that I noticed is that it actually keeps every autosave. Every time you go to a friendly town, it autosaves. And when you choose to load your game, you can either load your game from the last place where you were, or choose any of the places where you've been, so that you can backtrack like it seems like all the way to the beginning. I don't know if they ever stopped tracking them, but damn. Like I had like 5 different places that I could go to, and I could go all the way back to day 1 if I wanted to, or like day however. And that's kind of cool because like if you missed, because sometimes a goal will pop up, it'll be like visit a city in this kingdom within 27 days, and days pass by in like only like 4 or 5 moves. And then, you choose how you want to camp down for the night, and that'll, use up some of your resources, and sometimes you'll gain back some or whatever. But like you're choosing to camp like basically every few minutes, especially if your caravan is very loaded down and slow. Like you basically move like 4 squares and then it's sunset already.
Oh, man. Well, overall, $13 on Silk. What do you think of it?
I gotta give this one a recommendation because of the uniqueness of its like presentation, and also the grandness of the scope. Like I moved through an entire country, and I'm not even in the place where I need to be within 27 days yet, which is the last little goal I got just recently. It was like go to this country in 27 days, and so I like moved for like 10 days. I'm still not there. And, I looked at my map, and funny enough, since I went north and then south a little bit, and then I just started traveling east, I just had this giant dick as a map now. I actually took a screenshot. I'll share it with you.
Please do.
That path.
Yeah. But
definitely you send me that picture.
I will send it to you.
Does it have an episode screen cap?
Yeah, pretty much.
Exactly. It was pretty great and totally accidental too. I was like, oh here. But yeah, it's just like, even though I uncovered like all this map, it's just like I am not even close to like the next country, much less the end of the game. So the grandness of the scope, and just for like a $13 game, I really appreciate that about it. Like I said, I like everything in it. It's just, certain things are missing. Again, I would have liked a soundtrack, but I mean, for sure, for the fact that it's a budget release that was kickstarted and everything like that, and the fact that it's a passion project by a guy who, designs and writes, like puzzle games and like, has a good reputation for the quality of his writing. I think that that's a really cool thing that ought to be supported.
Awesome. Sounds good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, one last game for our group of people to talk about is called Just Ignore Them. Developed by Stranga Games, published by Grab the Games and Rattlelake Games. Released October 15th on PS4 and Vita, 16th on Xbox One, 18th on the Switch for $4.99. Growing up, we all knew that one kid who was absolutely terrified of the dark and convinced that there were monsters hiding beneath his bed. But what if it were true? Cole, tell us about Just Ignore Them.
There are things that go bump in the night, and in this case, they will come out of the closet and eat 8-year-old you. That's not a spoiler. Like, you can just immediately die.
Nice.
Don't do that. You're not going to uncover much of the story if you do that. So I want to point out, it's a Rattlelake.
They could afford Howie Mandel to come on and do this game.
It can be completed in an hour. There are guides. If you want to do it in under an hour, if you want to blast through it, just get quick achievements, you can do that. But it's not as easy as most Rattlelake games.
So you got to work for your 1,000 in this one.
You're gonna have to work. Yeah, you're still gonna get it under an hour.
Work hard for your
But you got to do a little bit of save scamming to do it. Which I have not been doing. I've just been playing it as we've gone through this whole show. I've just been sitting here playing this casually. As I did mention earlier, I had a few troubles with it though. This is not one of the more polished Rattlelake games. I'm not exactly surprised. It is a horror game. You do play as a guy named Mark. He is being chased by some horrible monsters who are in his closet and also kind of everywhere else. However, they don't typically kill Mark unless you fuck up. Then they will. But the overall idea of the story is that they kill people that he gets close to. And so if he finds himself attracted to, say, a lovely lady who he might pick up randomly at a hotel,
she gonna die.
Maybe. No spoilers.
What kind of?
Hey, it's not a spoiler. I didn't play the game.
I'm not going to answer whether she dies or not because that would be a spoiler because I did play the game. I'm not even going to answer about whether or not you actually pick up a lovely lady at a random bar. Also, Pernell, he starts off 8 years old, but then it like jumps to the future, and he's clearly in like his late 20s, early 30s ish.
Still wearing diapers.
Yeah. If you saw the monsters, you would probably not mock him for that. They're some gnarly little motherfuckers, and they've done some pretty traumatic shit to him over the years. The story is very similar in how it plays as like a point and click style horror to My Big Sister, which is not surprising because it is from the same developers. And again, that's why I kind of wasn't overwhelmingly surprised that there were some bugs in the game. I have My Big Sister. I didn't review it, oddly enough, but we do have it, and number one played it, and I remember her having some really weird, quirky issues with it too. So just to recap things I said earlier in the show, if you ignored me at that point, you're probably ignoring me now, which is fine. Say? Yeah. But some of the issues that I'm having are clearly the achievements are like, oh, you should be doing X, Y, or Z task. They're vague in the achievement list, but when you're in the game, you're like, well, yeah, that sticks out like a sore thumb. And so, like, you try to do said task, and it's not popping the achievements. But what I figured is, like, where I've been doing the show and talking occasionally while playing, I've paused at times. And when I've tried to unpause, or if I press Y, which I'm an idiot and keep trying to do to bring up an inventory, even though it's not the button for the inventory. It asks you to sign into your account again.
Which we should mention, this is on Xbox, obviously.
Yes. I mean, that's a pretty standard, like, menu screen feature where you can press Y and change your account before you start the game.
Yeah, but not in the game.
But it shouldn't be happening in the game. And I think that may be what's fucking my achievements. Because I can see other people have gotten them. I've got nothing. They could very well. I also have issues with my achievements, and like sometimes they just don't pop for 6 months. So who fucking knows? Yeah. Could be me. Could be the game. I'm 974% sure I looked in that window and I did not get the Peeping Tom achievement.
That's some freaky math.
So that is how certain I am. But besides, the few little quirks like that, it's actually really well done. There's an odd point about partway through the story that I got into where it kind of dove out of horror into like this weird sci-fi territory, and I'm like, no, I don't like this. But that's a personal thing. Yeah. I just don't like sci-fi stories. And I liked it far better when it was like, ew, there's monsters in the closet. And then it was like trying to explain the monsters in the closet, and they're not cool anymore. That's a personal thing. Some people are not bothered by that. I'm just like, you could have left it at the fact that there are creepy things in the vents, and I would have been good with it. Yeah. That's just me. I like the ambiguity. It's too late to say this word. Ambiguity. I like when it's ambiguous. Fuck, it's after midnight. Tomorrow's gonna suck.
Partycast.
5 a.m. is coming quickly. But yeah, it's pretty much like if you played My Big Sister, then gameplay wise, you're not gonna be shocked. It's fairly similar, even though the story is dramatically different. But the way the story is told, even down to like the art style and the dialogue boxes, you're like, I've seen this before. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. My kid, I didn't play My Big Sister, but my kid did, and she loved it. So she'll probably be tickled with this one, sci-fi and all.
Nice. Well, for $5, what do you say?
It's $5. Fuck it, why not?
That works.
Yeah. I mean, I would be a little more on the side, given the whole like how I'm having a couple of issues, even at $5. But it's under an hour. You can save, spam it. Just fuck it, why not? Go for it.
Yeah, that's a phallic looking map.
It was completely accidental.
I want to see the weenie map.
And that was more towards the beginning of the game, and like, closer to review time, that dick is now like 10 feet long.
What a long.
Oh my God, beautiful. Well, that is it for our group of folks. There's going to be a couple more reviews still to come. Who wants final words before we move on?
What flavor are the final words? Are they mint. More of a breakfast mint? Man, come on. Take candy corn final words. Let's go with that.
You do not compare mint and candy corn. Candy corn is gross.
Whoa.
Candy corn is gross.
What?
And I will die on that hill.
I'll tell you the hill I'm going to die on. I'm seeing a lot of memes for trash talking candy corn, the worst cake. Have any of these people ever had Turkish Delight? I'm going to tell you right now, that's the most abominable load of trash we were taught to think was delicious I have ever had in my life. That is the world's worst candy, and I will die on that hill, and everyone should join me because we'll be very comfortable on that hill because
That
we'll
hill
never
looks like
have
a
to actually
laundry
die. Yeah, well, it'll be comfortable too because it's freshly washed with fabric softener.
I'm eating Skittles right now. How about that?
See, they're amongst the
Skittles-
best of candies. They're
Lemon
just
Skittles
literal
are
sugar.
delicious.
They're just sugar. Like
They'd only make the green lime again instead of green apple because that's
yeah,
terrible.
seriously, fuck Apple.
they should just make them both and leave them the exact same color, and then have them being uncertain of what they were eating.
Like
A
on
Russian
Bean
roux.
Boozled.
A Russian roulette of green candy.
Oh, jeez.
Yes, it'll be so good. I'm all for it. But yeah, like Turkish Delights, that's the worst candy. That's it.
I'm trying to scrape the yellow one out. I didn't know it was yellow until it appeared in my hand. I would have not bothered.
Ah! The yellow is the best.
Hate on living.
They're pretty good though. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're just sugar. Like there's no bad Skittle. There's better Skittles, but there's not a bad one. They're sugar balls. Well, sorry, sugar herniated sugar discs. All right, and they're
Sugar
delicious.
dicks, what?
I heard sugar dick.
I'm sure.
My attention has been garnered, attained. I
sure
can't
there's-
English right now.
I'm sure there are stores in your area that do sell sugar dicks.
No,
No,
you want to
we're
hear a
talking
funny
about
story
Skittles.
about things that can't be bought in my area?
Is it about sugar dicks? Because I don't know if I want to hear that story.
There are particularly adult websites where you purchase particularly adult items. And at one time, my husband and I purchased an order from one of these websites, and we got an email stating that our order was canceled because it couldn't be mailed to us because we live in a highly conservative area.
Oh my god.
Was it fruit roll-up draws?
Man, it wasn't even anything exciting. It was just lube.
Oh, damn.
But they wouldn't mail it to us.
Wow.
That's actually hilarious.
So, yeah, it was just like, I could have went to Walmart.
Forcing us to use cough syrup. Don't you understand?
Can I just point out, you people are terrible at giving me final words?
You've gotten a ton of
so many.
Sugar dick.
paragraphs worth right now.
All right, moving on from all of that, Tim Ekibus is here. Tim, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I missed all that.
Yeah,
It
the
was all
Partycast. The Partycast. The
It
party
was
is over,
All that.
just like Bailey's party is
All
over.
That. This is all that. This is all that. I never would have guessed that Kenan Thompson would have went on to be on Saturday Night Live for like 18 years.
Yeah, seriously. I can't believe he's still on there.
Yeah. I mean, he's the senior dude on the show now. Like,
Yeah, I don't think he's ever going to leave. I hope he doesn't. I hope he's just there forever.
I think he'll retire at some point. But he seems very content with his position and what he's doing there.
I don't know. Let's not forget the guy that he beat, the previous record holder, Darrell Hammond, is now the announcer for Saturday Night Live.
Yeah. Which is a great choice. Yeah.
Since Don Pardo passed.
Yeah.
So you never really escape Saturday Night Live.
Yeah. Maybe he'll just, yeah. I don't know. I mean, that it's very clear. Sketch comedy is his thing.
Hey, whatever works.
Yeah. There's certainly worse things you could be doing.
Yes, like working for Vince McMahon.
Working for Vincent Kennedy. There's worse things you could be doing than that, I'm sure, as well. But depends. Depends.
Do you want to air your wrestling grievances?
No. I will. AEW is great. NXT is great. That's all I have to say about wrestling right now. I'm very excited that like tonight on television there are like at least 5 amazing matches that are going to take place. Like freaking Keith Lee versus Dijakovic 2 or 3 rather is going to be ridiculous.
Those guys are just going to fight forever.
I hope that Keith Lee wins because Keith Lee is awesome. Like, Keith Lee is so good. Like, he should be winning all of the things. I want to see him fight Adam Cole and such. I want to see him contending for titles. But he's kind of been... I'm just like, I'm waiting for him to break upward into that next tier of NXT.
Maybe go after the North American Championship.
Maybe that seems like the next logical stepping stone.
It does.
They got that belt there. Or well, no, but I don't know if you noticed the subtle change. The WWE Cruiserweight Championship is now the NXT Cruiserweight Championship.
Yeah.
Even though most of the guys in NXT are just cruiserweight. like the only like they said, like the last non-cruiserweight to hold the NXT Championship was Aleister Black, and he's like 215. So,
jeez,
yeah, not the biggest dudes in. I mean, both like Tommaso and Johnny were in the original
Classic.
Cruiserweight Classic. Yeah, they were in there. Oh well, Daddy's home. So
can't wait to see Goldie go back.
I think that's probably. I hope that's where they're going to go with it. You have to figure that Undisputed Era's dreams are going to come crashing down around them sooner or later.
Yeah,
you can't hang on to all the titles for that long, but we'll see.
Yeah, someone's going to come crashing down soon.
Yeah.
Anyway, should we get to some reviews?
We should talk about some reviews. I got a big plate. Need to start portioning some of this out. We can load it up my Columbus Day weekend.
Well, you're getting 2 out of the way now. First one to talk about is called Valfaris.
All right.
Developed by Steel Mantis, published by Big Sugar, released October 10th on Switch and Steam for $24.99. Set in a far corner of space, Valfaris is a heavy metal-infused 2D action platformer in the next game from the team Slain Back from Hell. Brutal combat, deadly enemies, stunning pixel art, metal soundtrack, get ready to rip the galaxy a new wormhole. Tim, tell us about Valfaris.
Jesus Christ. Rip the galaxy a new wormhole. Come on now. This is the new game from the Slain guys. I am somewhat of a Slain apologist, I guess, in that I think, I don't know, a lot of people wrote that game off because, you know, its initial release wasn't great, and the second release still had its problems, but I just thought it was so fucking cool to have, like, that metal-infused fantasy world that helped carry the game. The good news is, with Valfaris, you don't have to make any excuses for anything, because this game's fucking awesome. It is so goddamn good. Picking up where Slain left off, where the sword returned to space, seemingly. That's the twist, that Slain was about the sword, not the man holding it. Ooh.
No.
So it takes place in... It's sci-fi, takes place on the space station thing, Valfaris. There's some degree of plot behind it that's not really the most important thing or what you're here for. But yeah, instead of being like a side-scrolling sort of hack and slash game, this is straight up aping, you know, run and gun Contra style game. It's really good. So yeah, first of all, like, their art style and the amount of detail they put into their environments is incredible. And this game was reviewed on the Switch, and you may recall I did review Slain on the Switch, that port, a couple years ago, and that port had some problems out of the gate, but this does not have any... I think I saw like a little bit of slowdown like a couple times. For the most part, this game runs very smoothly on the Switch. There's no major technical hiccups. Like, frame rate's good, looks good. So they figured it out. They figured out what they need to do on the Switch. So there's no technical issues to complain about. And the game and the art just are freaking gorgeous. And, you know, all the enemies are so intricately designed. The backgrounds are so layered and detailed. It's just like everything is just awesome to look at, which is what I loved about Slain, and I also love about this game. And yeah, it has that chunky metal soundtrack backing everything up. It still has the thing where when you pick up a new weapon, your dude stops and headbangs for a second. And there's a guitar chug to go along with it, which is lifted pretty much directly from Slain. So what you got going on with your guy? You got your sidearm, you got your sword melee weapon, and you get a kind of heavy weapon to go along with it. So your sidearm is kind of your basic rootin' tootin' shooting pistol. You get your melee weapon is generally speaking a sword, though it can get weird. And the first heavy weapon they give you is a large heavy machine gun thing. But the game just, you don't, as far as I know, it seems like all the weapons are on the critical path. I am saying that not knowing if I missed anything, but it seems like, I have built a hefty arsenal just with weapons just kind of sprinkled out throughout the game. You get, lasers, flamethrowers, shotguns, other weird stuff like grenade launcher things, Tesla cannons. So you'll find different sidearms, you'll find different swords, you'll find different heavy weapons, and when you get to a checkpoint, you can switch them in and out. So the way kind of the flow of combat works is your gun's your gun, your basic gun, your sidearm just shoots whatever, that's fine. Your heavy weapon you have your life bar as well as an energy bar. Your heavy weapon will use up your energy bar. But when you kill or hit, I think it's just when you hit them, when you hit and or kill an enemy with your sword, that generates energy. So it creates this loop, which is not, somewhat reminiscent to me of the 2016 Doom release, where doing different kinds of combat feed into other things, where you'd have to get up close to melee to get, more ammo for your heavier weapons and this and this and this. So you can get it, you find openings, you do some sword slashes, even on bosses and larger enemies, to create yourself some energy, to power up your heavy weapons and do more damage. And that's cool. The way the checkpointing work in this, the way the checkpoints work in this game, so they have checkpoints scattered around, but to use them, you need to find these little green idols, totems that are sitting around, and you have to use one of them in order to activate the checkpoint, which sounds kind of harsh, right? This game is, spoiler, it's challenging, like a Contra game should be, and yet they have a consumable item to use for checkpoints. But kind of the twist is, it's never that hard, as far as I could see, to get those idols to use, but they incentivize you to not use them. Because say you're in a level and there's 6 checkpoints, and there will be 6 idols along the way. So if you skip a checkpoint or two, at the end of the level, you can cash in those idols to get yourself these blood idols, which you can use to upgrade your weapons. And there's blood idols, you get them from beating certain enemies. They're scattered around and hidden around levels as well. But if you want to be a badass, you can try skipping some checkpoints to get yourself a couple extra blood idols to power up your weapons a little bit more. You power up your weapons at checkpoints. It tells you what the upgrades do as you ready them up. Usually it involves more damage plus something else. There's a flamethrower pistol you get, which is, it's short range, does a steady stream of damage, but when it kills an enemy, the enemy releases wolf spirits around. So it's when you upgrade it, it does more damage and it releases more wolf spirits into the world. Yeah. I didn't really use it that much because you power up your main pistol, and the first upgrade for the main pistol gives it a little spread shot thing. So I'm well, yes, this is obviously very useful, so I'm going to upgrade that and probably use it a ton, which I have. But certainly all the weapons have their uses. I have used the flamethrower a bit. There's a weird drop shot kind of grenade launcher thing, which I don't like at all. But there is a piercing laser you get, which I really like. Heavy weapons, I'll rotate between kind of depending on the situation. And they when you pick up a weapon, it gives you the option to equip it. And you always should, because I always feel like they kind of tune the little next bit of the area to showcase that weapon, which is cool and smart and good game design. But yeah, they got a lot of weird, interesting stuff. My preferred heavy arms, I kind of jump back and forth between the heavy shotgun and this the aforementioned Tesla cannon that just shoots this stream of electricity that will like seek out and wear down targets.
Those are always fun.
Those are fun. Usually I find that they're not strong enough, but in this I feel like the damage it does is makes up for it. Or not makes up for it, but the damage is good, so it feels good. But they have there's a heavy flamethrower as well to go along with the handheld flamethrower, and that is that's good and has its uses too, because that's good against like lots of projectiles. So if you find yourself against a boss or in an area where there's a lot of projectiles flying at me, then maybe I want to equip one of the flamethrowers. I also found myself. Yeah, I found myself, like, I definitely have my favorite weapons, but I would definitely be able to recognize situations where it's like, okay, I need to change things up a little bit. I need a little more damage, a little more range, a little more of this, a little more of that. Another little mechanic that I almost forgot about is if you hold the right trigger, it puts up a shield, which will block projectiles at the expense of your energy meter. But also, if you have a large enemy that is doing a melee attack, you can parry them by hitting the right trigger at just the right time, and it will parry them and stun them for a second, which is definitely takes some practice. That was also a big part of Slain, so it's like kind of another way that game seeps into this game, and you can kind of see that shared DNA. But overall, I just think this game definitely shows, what they've learned from that game and put into a sophomore effort. Just technically it runs smoother, but I think it's just, while still being a challenging game, it's a lot of fun and not frustrating. The problem with Slain is it got frustrating, I think, for people at times, or just because things were clunky. But this always kind of like, I think it's just really designed really well. So it's going to be challenging, but I think it's fair with its challenge. And the level designs are really varied and interesting. You will be, climbing up walls. There's moving platforms. There's, climbing along wires along the ceiling above things, and your standard issue, spike traps and all this other bull honky around this space station that you have to deal with. There is some vehicle sections where you get inside a giant killer mech and just run rampage over things, which is cool. I
have a question for you. This goes back a bit to the checkpoint situation.
Yes.
It reminded me a lot of Shovel Knight, where you could destroy checkpoints to get extra cash and risk, having to go back further if you were to die. In Shovel Knight, if you died, you lost half your money. You would have to run back and recollect it, and you had to run that risk of dying again on your way back. Is there any kind of death penalty in Valfaris that you have to worry about? Nothing there?
No, actually. And even if it retains the things that you find as well. So if you pop up into a secret area and you collect a blood idol that's out of the way, you keep that. You don't have to do it over again. Which I thought was nice, because you might remember me complaining about that when I was reviewing Ori last month, is something that irritated me about that game. But no, it's like if you collect it, it's yours forever. You don't have to go back and do that side stuff. You can just concentrate moving forward. So the game is nice in that way. Like the only thing you run the risk of by skipping a checkpoint is dicking yourself over. And just not even that far in the game. Like basically once I started upgrading my weapons, I started thinking like, man, I want some kind of a new game plus mode for this game that starts you over with all your upgraded weapons. And it's not there yet, but it's coming in an update. It's like the full metal update. They're doing like a sort of new game plus where it carries over your stuff, but also the game is harder.
Nice.
So that's cool, and that's what I wanted. But it's very fun and very well made on its own.
Well, then at $24.99, what is your verdict?
Well, I'm sure, I think I talked about this a bit with River City Girls. Some people might balk at the idea of paying $25 for a mere
Contra action game. I don't know, whatever. It's worth it. Like, it's well worth it. It's an extremely well made game that is a lot of fun. I reviewed Blazing Chrome back in the summer, and that was also a good, cool, Contra style game. But that game was very much just like, hey, we're going to do Alien Wars, and this game does more and interesting stuff. It's another step up in its production value, and I think with what it's doing with its mechanics and gameplay. I think Felferis is well worth checking out, and hopefully it'll trickle over the home console side pretty soon as well.
I believe it is in the works for PlayStation and Xbox, so it's just a matter of time.
Yeah, pretty sure. It's just, these indie developers can only concentrate on so many platforms, and they want to get it on the two best ones, right? Switch and PC.
So.
Well, it's always going to be on PC but it's just it seems like getting things on Switch as soon as possible is a very hot thing to do.
Yeah, it makes sense. Everything just sells better on Switch, so you might as well.
Yep. Yeah. So yeah.
You got one other game to talk about, and that is called River City Melee Mock, developed and published by Arc System Works, released October 10th on Switch, PS4, and Steam for $13.99. The original Battle Royale game is back and buffed. No rules and fights to the finish where anything goes. Over 180 characters and 250 different special moves. Tim, tell us about River City Melee Mock.
Okay. The original Brawler, or the original, Brawler game, right? Everybody remembers when they imported that game from Japan to play on their imported Famicoms, right? Well, I do. I actually, there is a Kunio-kun game for the Famicom that is a 4-player brawler, which I did grab an import copy of at a MagFest, a few years ago, and I played it on my Famiclone. It didn't run great, but it was kind of crazy just to see a 4-player, party brawler game running on the NES, even though it didn't run great. Didn't run into gates either. So either or. So this is that sort of going. So the way the gameplay plays out is you end up throwing 4 characters into an arena, and they fight to the death, injury, unconsciousness. Let's say there's no murder in this game.
Brutal murder.
It's like, it seems like they're like the tournaments are sponsored by schools, so one would hope it, but I guess you never know.
Yeah.
So
brutal, vicious, bloody murder. Got it.
Yeah. There is as you throw out with on the copy, there is a high volume of stuff. There is no shortage of yes, there is 30 different teams with 6 fighters on each team. That does math out to 180. That checks out. Each fighter will have 2 to 3 special moves. I didn't look at all 180 of them. Some of them might have more. Some of them might have one less. That's a lot to look through now that I think about it, but seemed on average it was 2 or 3. And each fighter will have different stats. So the way the fights play out is it isn't strictly like, oh, if you're the last person standing, you win. I mean, I guess it kind of depends on how you set the rules, but it'll end up being based on points. And you get points, by fighting basically and doing damage, but you'll also, of course, get bonus points for winning the match. But it does seem like if you have someone who's very inactive, just kind of waits in the corner and then runs in and gets in the last punch, they might not necessarily win the fight.
So you can't just kill snipe in the game. Yeah,
it does. You do need to be a bit of an active fighter to guarantee your victory, which I do appreciate. You can set up matches to consist of multiple rounds, and so kind of the way that works is, when you are selecting, you're not just picking a character to go into a match with, you're picking a team. So if a match is multiple rounds, then a character's stamina level will carry over. So if you throw in your best character on the first round, they get the smack kicked out of them. you're going to be choosing different characters for the next 2 rounds, or however many rounds for future rounds. So there is a bit of strategy there in deciding, like, when are you going to put in your best guy to, pretty much guarantee a round. When you put in a different character, how do you need to play around their lack of being the best guy on your team, and that. And so the game has a story mode. All 30 teams have a story. All of them do.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it's not like crazy. It's,
they're not
be
epic
like
novels.
No, there'll be like a little opening cutscene to set things up, and maybe like a scene in the middle, and then there at the end as well.
But still, to do that for 30 teams,
they did some
nice.
writing there. They did some writing. Yeah, you kind of almost expect with 30 different teams of fighters that you're going to be like, oh, well, here's the featured like 12, and then there's all these other ones that are available just for multiplayer. And the teams, like, if you are a fan of these games, you'll certainly recognize, like, oh, well, here's Kaneo-kun's team, here's Ricky's team, that's Alex and Ryan. They have their own teams. There's like the dodgeball team, there's the World Cup soccer team, there's the weird, like, from that fantasy RPG they released a couple years ago, there's a team for them. There's some lady teams. Most of them are just students, though, all up and down. It's pretty much just students from different schools. But as you're going through the story mode, one thing that kind of annoyed me is that, like, the game wouldn't tell you how many rounds there were to a match, which made it difficult to strategize, like, when to put in characters, because it starts out like, I think like the first level is like, okay, well, here's 1 round, and I'm like, okay, well, Kaneo, I'm just gonna put him in and wipe ass, and we'll be done, move on, move forward, cool. And then it's like, okay, well, the next one is 2 or 3, and then you get to one that's like 5, and it's just like, okay, what the heck is going on here? Like, it kind of became frustrating, and it also became like a bit tedious just to be on, because it doesn't change maps for between rounds. It's just on the same map. So if you end up playing on the same map like 5 times in a row, and you're kind of playing with progressively weaker characters on your team, it definitely gets the interest wanes.
Yeah,
for sure. And that was annoying. There is, of course, like tons of there's other modes. There's like, the multiplayer modes in there. So they have like a free for all. You can do 2v2, you can do team battle, and team battle is where you'll pick your team. You'll actually go, it's kind of like, it's like the team battles in like Tekken or Soul Calibur, where it's the last man standing, and you just keep rotating in the next guy from your team, which is awesome. And I always appreciate that mode, and I wish that all fighting games had that, because that's actually how I played with my friends back in the day. And it, like, kind of when you're going into a battle in Smash, there's tons of rules you can customize, like how many rounds is it going to be, how many weapons are going to show up on the play field, what map are you going to be on,
Final Destination, Fox only, no items.
What music do you want? Yeah, exactly. What music do you want to hear? There's some decent songs on the soundtrack. I feel I should mention that. I just got a lot. I didn't have a great time actually playing the damn game. There's like elements to just how the whole product is put together that just feel kind of thrown together and like a little bit half-assed, I hate to say, which sounds like a little bit mean. I kind of alluded when I was reviewing River City Girls that I had kind of been a little, what do I want to say, nonplussed with what had been coming out of the River City license since ArcSys took over. Like, they've been putting out games, but they've kind of just been like reusing these same sprites and just injecting them in and then just kind of popping these games out. And when I look at this game, I kind of look like the way some of the writing is, and just like the way some of the text is formatted on screen, which for one is very small, but just kind of like it's not translated very well. One of the weird things is it would say like player 1 or like team 1, and there would be like no space between team and the number, which I just thought was odd.
Yeah, like on the NES, you would kind of expect that, but in today's age,
there's a little lack of refinement.
Yeah.
When you go into like the how to play menu, it doesn't reflect any button configuration changes you've made, which, one of the first things I did was mess around with the buttons, as I am wont to do with the games. Just, I think initially it had, whatever, I changed the buttons. That's what I did. But then I was like going into how to play, and the button commands didn't line up. It like still had the old button commands in there, so I had to sit there and like do the mental, not the strenuous mental gymnastics, but it was just kind of like, man, you couldn't like program it to change the buttons. Sloppy writing, and like the fighting in general just feels like, you think it's like cool because I enjoy the fighting, even like kind of the old like River City Ransom. Like it was fun just to fight with somebody in 2-player mode. But I guess I like expect a little bit more nowadays. Like when you have 180 fighters with hundreds of different special moves, and there's no kind of like consistency between how those moves are executed. So, you have some characters that are better with weapons, and so you will need to be holding a weapon. Some characters are weapon specific. Like, well, this character is good with the stick, and his specials are with the stick. So if you don't have the stick, he's just a guy. And it's not like a thing, like when you put someone in front of Smash Brothers, you can be like, okay, well, this is your normal attack, this is your special attack. If you push things up, down, left, right, they do different things. That's like the, I just told someone how to basically do a little bit in Smash right there. Yeah. But in this, like, there's no consistency to how those moves are performed. So, like, introducing this game into a party environment, like, if people are going to, like, you're not going to put this game in people's hands and have them easily doing special moves. They would have to look at the move list for that character, the 2-move list, and then kind of interpret it. And some of them are kind of tricky to do even unto themselves, where you'll have things like, there's a guy who has like this lunging punch attack. That's his deal. But you have to push punch at the moment he's like landing from his jump. So when the characters land, there's like a little like crouching like impact when they hit the ground. And that's when you hit punch, because he'll spring up and punch. And his second special is if you hit down twice, or 3 times, he will just kind of do a crouch, and you can do the punch out of that. So that's like, but like explaining that to it, like it was even kind of tricky for me to figure out. And just being like, oh, okay, well, I have to land and then hit the punch and do that. Like, if you put that character in like a new person's hands, they're just gonna be like whatever, and they're just gonna be kind of like punching and kicking, and they're gonna have an okay time, but I think like
it could be more intuitive.
It could be more intuitive, and I think doing something where it was like, okay, if there's something consistent where it's like, okay, you push this direction and punch, or this direction and kick, like something is going to come out on every character, but at the base level, they just have kind of their base River City, like punches, their basic move set. And, with 180 characters, I'm broad brushing a little bit because there's a very broad number of characters in the game. And there, of course, are some that are different, but there's just a lot that, needs like more explanation. But I just think kind of the way it's designed, like it'll entertain people for like a little bit, but it's going to wear out its welcome like pretty quickly. Unfortunately, It's just like not conducive to people like just being able to pick up and play and like, okay, well, I want to try out a bunch of different characters and, see their cool moves. But what just ends up happening is, well, I'm trying out different characters and I'm constantly having to like, okay, double check the move list and then try to figure out how it works. And then just like, it just feels like it needed more work and polish. Like the $13 asking price isn't astronomical. Like that's a pretty cheap game in my opinion.
$14.99.
$13.99. I rounded down, not up.
That'll teach you.
Yeah. Well, that changes everything. That extra dollar fucks. But no, it just like, it just feels like they just kind of like threw it out, like put the game together, took their sprites from all these games they're making, threw them in here, and then were like, okay, well, ran down game. I'm not saying it isn't work to do that with 180 characters, but there's a certain lack of refinement there where it's like if they had gone, you know, a little further with, you know, making things a little more consistent between the characters, as far as moveset goes, just like ironing out these little things with the dialogue and how the game tells you how to play. And, you know, if that came at the expense of being like a little more expensive, I think it is potentially an awesome party game. But I think as it is, you know, the playing through the story mode is frankly like a bit tedious, because on a lot of teams, you have like one good character and then a bunch of scrubs. So it just kind of ends up not being that fun to like keep playing these different characters, not that different. And another thing for that matter, that's right. So something I realized, they have a little thing where you can kind of create your own custom team, which is cool for use in like the non-story mode. And I was going through like the different characters and I was realizing like the difference between most of the characters in the game is just like from their nose up. Like that's the only difference between probably like 100 plus of these characters. So when you are in a fight, it is really easy to actually just completely lose track of your character, like because they are so similar. And to make matters worse, there's some kind of status effect, speaking of things that they don't explain very well, where your character will get like tired and they will change color to like a red color. And when that happens, and when you have 4 characters that have all changed color, forget about trying to pick your dude out of the crowd. Just like, and I don't even know what that means. Like, it's not explained from where I could see anything. I saw like that condition referred to in the move list, but I don't know what it means, like how you get into it or what. It seemed like on the first few matches I did, like I was going into it constantly. It might be like how much you're getting beat up, but I felt like later on I'd be getting the crap kicked out of me and it wasn't happening. So I'm not really sure. But that was certainly annoying, just trying to play single player and trying to distinguish my character from the others. Like maybe they need to have like 90 characters in this game and make them a little more distinct from one another. Maybe that might have been a better move. I think that's still a lot of characters, right?
Yeah.
Then it's still 15 teams. Maybe a more refined experience would have
quality over quantity.
Yeah. But it just seems like they dumped, a lot in there, and I'm sure that like some fun can be had of this game, but I'm mostly just disappointed with it not
Well, as it stands, $14. What do you say?
I would unfortunately deny it. I think it would probably be a hoot to grab on a sale just to actually, play for a little bit with some friends. But I think as it is unfortunately unpolished and lackluster and made me sad because I love River City. And of all the things to have to put the deny stamp on, I wouldn't want it to be a River City game, yet here we are. Yeah.
I know your love for the River City franchise. So.
I do. I have so many games. It's tangent or final thought or whatever. So there is a hockey game that only came out for Famicom that is a blast to play that they made. It is so fun, and it never came out over here. But you end up like some of the different one of the different teams, you're still playing other clubs like in the school, so you'll end up playing hockey against like the kendo club, and they're just out there in their kendo armor with their sticks hitting the puck around. But it's a really fun little 8-bit hockey game, which unfortunately never made over. But there's so much fun that can be had with those characters. I just wish that ArcSys did more like River City Girls than stuff kind of like this. It's just like, I want new art. I want new stuff.
We got to get you a copy of the Kunio-kun World Classics collection.
Yeah.
Do you know what that is?
I believe I have heard of that. Like my ears are burning a little bit.
Because you mentioning that hockey game made me actually load it up. I actually bought it off the Japanese marketplace. Oh. The hockey game is on it.
Oh, nice. 18 titles. Yeah, I must have. I think I forgot about it. That thing I do. Yeah, I think 18 of those classic games.
Yeah, and 7 of them are from the NES.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. They're all in Japanese, but those are generally games you can fart around with and figure out.
I'm talking like 7 of them are from the American release.
Oh, the American NES. Oh, yeah.
Renegade, Dodgeball,
River City, Crash and the Boys, Double Dragon, Double Dragon 2, and Double Dragon 3, The Sacred Stones.
Yeah, 3 was awful.
Yeah. Yeah, Hockey Boo. Where is that? Oh, there it is. Or Dodgeball Boo. Street Basket, basketball game, soccer league. Yeah.
We gotta get you a copy of that game.
Yeah, I guess I gotta get my hands on it at some point. It's funny, I have so many. Oh, there, yeah, the old fighting game's on there. Neketsu Kakuto Densetsu. Oh, it probably runs better on this collection than it does on my Famiclone. Yeah, so there you go. That might be something. Like you get the fighting game and all this other stuff. More expensive, but probably. How much was it on the Japanese eShop?
Oh God, I don't remember.
I don't think about what I'm spending money on. That's part of my problem.
It's been a while since I picked it up. I want to say it was about $30-$40 probably.
Not bad. See,
it was like a budget retail title. I think you could pick up a physical version for Switch or PS4 possibly.
Yeah, I'm looking at physical copies that they have them like, $50 on eBay and PlayAsia and such. But
there you go. You're set. So do you have any final words before we move on?
No final words for this one.
All right, and finally tonight we've got our good friend Jacob Garner joining us. Jacob, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. Recovering from the cold that I had last week.
Nice. Always good.
Yeah, with your tweets brought to you by NyQuil.
That was beautiful that they replied to you.
It was. I was a little sad that they never replied again, but,
Oh, well.
Oh, well. One day we'll find corporate sponsorship.
Senpai noticed us, so that was good enough.
I don't know what that says about us if Senpai is NyQuil.
Says everything right.
I don't know. I just feel like, well, as an alternative to NyQuil, you could listen to the SML podcast. Either way, you're falling asleep.
Hell yeah, man. We have a use, finally. The episodes are long enough. You just start one and you'll be out by the time it's over. Guaranteed.
Thank God, we don't make, actual, video casts, that we upload to YouTube or anything. Otherwise, we could also be used to, induce vomiting.
True. Yeah, but I'm the only one who actually uses video when we do this online, so that doesn't matter anyway.
That's fair. I mean, I don't know. Does anybody need pills to help them not achieve erections? Because I feel like looking at you would make that happen.
Blow me.
No, I won't.
Oh my God. Well, should we get to the business at hand? You're here to talk about one game. Final game to talk about of the episode.
Yeah, so I just played this game. So I'm going to derail this for a second. Called Sengoku. It's currently on sale on Xbox. For $3.99. Made by SNK back in 92 or something like that. It's a beat 'em up. It makes absolutely no sense. I hope everyone checks this thing out because all of SNK's beat 'em ups are the same exact thing. Weird shit that doesn't make sense. It's a beautiful thing. Yeah,
it is.
Okay, all right, on to the actual game.
Final game to talk about tonight is called Debris Infinity, developed and published by SVC Games, released October 11th on Xbox One for $4.99. Be elusive, be intense, be constant, put your reflexes to the limit, manipulating time itself to make impossible maneuvers, using an advanced scoring system to rank your performance. Jacob, tell us about Debris Infinity.
So pretty much the easiest way to describe it to people, because when I was I'm casually talking with some of my friends at work, and I'm like, oh yeah, like, I'm reviewing a new game called Debris Infinity. They're like, oh, and then I'm like, it's like Geometry Wars, but you control time, and all of a sudden everybody's just like, oh shit.
Do tell more.
Yeah, like, all right, so pretty much it's Geometry Wars, mixed in with some asteroids that pop in. But you're in this little ship. All right, first off, there's 3 modes. There's original, time attack, and I think it's called power wave. But it's essentially you just get attacked in waves. So original mode is Geometry Wars plus some asteroids thrown in. And you go around the whole thing, like your little rectangle space area, and you're given this shield, which can help you, obviously stay alive for a bit and protect you. And pretty much you just try to survive as long as you can, and you do face off against some enemies. I couldn't make it long enough to find out if there's actual bosses. In the time attack thing, I saw something that kind of seemed like a boss. It was this like floating head that would, try to target you. Did you play this game, Joe?
No, I did not.
Oh, okay. All right. So you're unfortunately at the whims of me being like, well, this happens, but I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I had plans to play this one, but family things happened this past weekend that kind of threw a wrench in plans. So
gotcha. Well, all right. So pretty much normal mode is as you'd expect. It's I don't want to call it a clone, but I mean it's essentially Geometry Wars, except like you can either slow down time so you can zip past enemies and like lasers and shit, or you can use your shield energy as this like wave and it'll just destroy everything on screen. So then there's also the power wave mode, which as you destroy enemies, it helps increase your time your timer. So just kill lots of stuff, just kill everything on the screen, and you'll be okay for a bit. And then the third one, which I honestly couldn't quite grasp how it works. In terms of scoring, I couldn't grasp how it works, was the time attack thing, because you're given 3 minutes to survive, which I was just like, okay, seems easy enough. And obviously you're just supposed to survive the 3 minutes, which I've done multiple times, but somehow I have a negative score in this game, and I don't know what I'm doing to get this negative score, because like all the other two modes, I'm listed on like the ranked leaderboards for them. I can't get on the ranked leaderboards for this one mode, and I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I mean, the top 10 people are all in the millions for their score.
You're in the negatives.
I'm in the I'm actually unranked. It won't rank me because I have this negative score, and it's just like I'm playing it. At first, I was just like, oh, well, maybe it punishes you for using like your shield blast thing that like just wipes out everything on the screen. Maybe it punishes you for that. So then I started playing a few rounds where I wouldn't use it, and I was still getting an even lower negative score. And I'm just like, because like, I mean, the first time I'm just like, oh, well, I'm negative 500,000. Okay, like whatever. I'm now in like negative 1.6 million. So it's like, what am I doing? Like, how is it that Carnage is listed, up in the top 10 for this? I don't know. We'll have to reach out.
Because Carnage is crazy at Geometry Wars.
No, I get that, but how is he getting a positive score and I'm getting a negative score? This doesn't make sense.
I don't know. We'll have to ask him.
I know. We have to. However, I would just like to say, at one point, I was ranked 16th in the world on the normal mode, which I was very proud about.
And now that the game is out, you're nowhere near that.
Joe. Okay. Shut the fuck up. Shut up. Shut up. Shut up. I'm now like, I'm now in like the top 400. But at one point, Joe, I was 16th in the world.
Once upon a dream.
Enough that I saved screenshots.
Oh, my Lord.
Just so I have proof that at one point in time, I was in 16th place.
I'm so proud of you.
Hey, for a while there, Carnage was actually number 1. I think he's number 3 right now.
Oh, he's got to step his game up then.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, so then, so that's all the one-player modes for this game. It controls pretty well. It's pretty fun, and it's a blast to play. I didn't get to do the 2-player mode. So I don't know how exactly that works, but to be honest, I was having a full-blown blast with it. My only complaint, honestly, is just one of, like, as you, like, during your game, you'll get more experience and you'll level up, which means, I guess, you get more weapons and energy. I never really figured it out because I also never really survived long enough to figure it out. But crap, where's to go? Oh, so it'll force you to upgrade your weapon at some points for like a limited duration. And one of them is like the Vulcan cannon. And granted, yeah, it's pretty much one shot, one kill, but like its spread is so tiny that, like, honestly, I found it to be more of a hindrance than anything. And I hated it every single time I got stuck with the Vulcan cannon. Yeah, legit that, and also because I just don't understand how the scoring of time attack works. Those are honestly my only 2 complaints about the game.
Well, then, as it stands at $4.99, what do you think?
Oh, hell yeah. $4.99, that's a great price for this game. Absolutely buy it. Absolutely. You'll love it. You love Geometry Wars? Debris Infinity is right up your alley, too.
Yeah, I really need to play this one. I have it. I just have not had the time to sit down and fire it up. I'm hoping this week that changes. If you've been listening to the show and how many reviews we've had, you know how busy we've been. So.
Yeah. I mean, you've already assigned me like 2 more games I have to review that I haven't even touched yet.
Yeah. So, and that's a light load.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, and that's just not even including playing that Sengoku game.
Which I'm going to lose you to that, aren't I?
Yeah, possibly. Because, right, like, before, like, I had to hop on the show, like, I was on stage 1, and there's this one point where you get transport. Right, first off, in case you guys have not figured this out from what I've already said, it is a weird fucking game. Like, like pretty much the whole basis is that like 400 years ago, these 2 samurai defeat this evil warlord who makes a prophecy of like, oh, in 400 years, like I'm going to come back and I'm going to take over the world. Ha 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 ha. And then like the game's shitty translation of the opening dialogue is like, and then 400 years later, he did. And then it's just like you like start walking around the city as this like street punk like whatever guy because he's a standard SNK beat 'em up character, and then you just keep getting sucked up into the clouds where you have to beat all these like different guys, and then they're like, oh, thank you for freeing me, I will serve along with you, and then you can eventually morph into them after you've built up enough energy. But then I've discovered it's just like everybody whose powers you get, like they all suck. And like one of them is this like panther, and another one's this like acrobatic ninja guy, and they're both fucking horrible. And you have to wait like 45 seconds before you can like transfer back to your regular body. And then it's just none of the locations make sense. Like it's a bridge that has like volcano fire coming out of it. And then at one point I get transported and we're fighting on this stampede of horses, and you have to like keep hopping back between these different horsebacks to beat up this guy. And it's just, and all of that was just like World 1 for this game.
Yeah, it's a weird one.
It doesn't make any fucking sense. And I'm just like, the SNK beat 'em ups are just this weird fucking treasure trove of just bizarre games. Like, everybody loves and knows SNK for, like, King of Fighters, Art of Fighting, Fatal Fury, all that, Samurai Showdown, all that kind of stuff. And it's just like, everybody neglects their beat 'em ups. And it's this beautiful weirdness that you must try out. Everybody has to try out these games. I especially recommend Mutation Nation.
Cool. I will have to check those out because we're not reviewing them.
We're not, which is a shame because, you know.
We may have. It's possible. I know we reviewed a couple of the Neo Geo games on the show.
You know, I could go back and review them for you at some point if, you know, we ever have a lull in activity again.
Well, that's a big if because it is crazy, and this episode is long enough, so I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks, everyone, for coming on, doing their thing, to the Partycast members, to Tim, to you. Do you have any final words to end the show?
Yeah, actually, I could. So if we have any comic book readers, if you have an Ollie's near you, like, honestly, it's the best kept secret for graphic novels. And I just picked up a deluxe hardcover copy of Punk Rock Jesus for $7 because there was no price tag on it. And so they decided to go back over into the book section to price match. And instead of going over to the graphic novels, they went over to the religion section and matched it up against an illustrated Bible stories book.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so a book that, like, I gladly would have paid $20 or more for, they just rang it up for $7.
Nice.
Yeah, book cost $40. But yeah, like, so if I'm going to tie this into video games, there are some copies of the Darkness comics in there. So get on that.